Just to recap, welcome to the 5th Annual Wolverhampton Black Business Conference. And also to recap, if you have a car in the car park, please ensure you have registered your number plate, your registration, at the main reception. Unfortunately, if you do not do so and you leave the car park later on this evening, you will be fined £100, and that's beyond our control. That's to do with the hotel itself. Okay, so I will remind everybody again when we have our comfort break a bit later. But without further ado, Celia, you can't get the staff. Right, you jumped a little bit ahead. I just wanted to say thank you to our sponsors. If you could go back one slide, Celia, for us, please. Yeah, she's fine. Yeah. So just wanted to thank all our sponsors and supporters for this evening. As you can see, there are many and numerous. But we have some of them in the room with us tonight, and they will be speaking to you. So I will wait till that time to introduce them to you. Can I have the next slide, please? So your compares for this evening will be myself. I'm Janet Smith. I am the director of JS Associate, which is a business consultancy, and I am the owner also of the Little Cards, the Cards and Little Gifts Company, if I could get it out right. And then we have with us this evening Councillor Celia Hibbert, who, as it states on the screen, has held seats at Wolverhampton Council's Governance and Ethics Committee, and a very good person to know. She also sits on the Planning Committee. So take note of the back of her head, and when she stood here later comparing, take note of her face.
My hair changes every 2 weeks.
And that's true. This is very true. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? And just to cover off some housekeeping points. So parking I have mentioned. If you don't already are not already aware where the toilet facilities are, they are in the corridor adjacent to the main reception. As mentioned previously, this evening's proceedings will be videoed, and our videographer will be taking photographs for us. So if you don't want to be videoed or you do not want your photograph taken, please do let him know. And this is a gentleman walking around the room. There you go. Right, your delegate packs includes your programs for this evening, as well as the WBBN membership form, and the actual pack itself has within it the profile of our speakers this evening. Refreshments are provided within the main foyer, and refreshments will be provided again later on this evening during the comfort break. Mobile phones, I understand that in this current time it's difficult for people to turn their mobile phones completely off, but if you could put them on vibrate, just so not to disturb our speakers, that would be much appreciated. And finally, if you do have to talk while our speakers are talking, don't. Or at least try and keep it to a very polite minimum. Okay, next slide, please. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend and your friend, our chair, our executive director, Chief Sam Duru. Now, Sam, as you'll see from your program, has over 25 years in business support services. He's SEMA qualified. He's an accountant and a procurement specialist. He's a generalist business advisor and has worked for Business Link West Midlands. Sam organises and leads business support workshops in Wolverhampton as part of business support through SCA Management and the Wolverhampton Black Business Network. He's an experienced mentor. SCA Management is working with the City of Wolverhampton Council to deliver their Relight Business support programme for small businesses in Wolverhampton. He also works on strategic engagements with various organisations on behalf of Wolverhampton Black Business Network, and he sits on several boards of other organisations. Put your hand together for Sam Dura.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Janet. I don't really talk too much. Just a few words of welcome And just to say that we're very grateful that lots of you have given your time this evening to be here, and very important personalities around, men and women. And we are very grateful that you're here, and I hope all our speakers will, satisfy you tonight when they speak. Obviously, as Janet says, this network this is a pretty out 10th year. Many people wouldn't know that. But we've been slowly going, and slowly we will get there. And obviously, I'm grateful that you guys are here. As this is our 5th conference, I hope it will be as good, if not better, than the ones we've had in the past. You guys know what the theme for tonight is. So it's all about resilience, small businesses, and we know that if you're still in business, I take it that you are resilient. But I'm sure all our speakers, we've said to them, say nothing tonight other than that. Somehow, to encourage one another to, like the good book says, to encourage one another. We try to encourage one another and see how that we move on in whatever we do. No matter the pace, you get there if you persist. I recall my days at Business Link. I keep saying to particularly my people that don't quit too quickly. Because if you quit too quickly, you don't know at what point you hit the jackpot, if that's what you're looking for. But people do quit too quickly. And I do try to say, take it slowly, you'll get there if you really persist and know and plan what you're doing. And without further ado, I'm going to hand back to Janet to continue the proceedings. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you. So up next, looking very pensive, they're sat there, Wolverhampton City Council. That's one of our sponsors this evening. Unfortunately, we were expecting the leader of the council. Not unfortunately, I said that the wrong way round. Oh, sorry. What am I thinking? We were gratefully expecting the leader of the council this evening. Unfortunately, he's not well enough to be here. But nevertheless, we have Councillor Simpkins and we have David Patterson, the Chief Operating Officer, here with us this evening. And they're going to give us a short presentation about Wolverhampton and how wonderful we are, if we didn't already know that. Okay then. Right, so Councillor Simpkins.
Hello. Oh, that's rather loud. Well, thank you for clapping. I are usually that good, so I never really get that much round of applause. Unfortunately, Ian can't be here. He's not feeling too well. But if you really want me to, I can speak in a Liverpudlian accent. And I'll apologise now for my own accent. If anybody can't understand me, I'm from Bilston, so I might drift into Bilstonese. So I'll try to talk slowly. And just on that, Bilston has such a diverse history, exactly the same as Wolverhampton. As you can see, I'm a Bilston lad, born and bred. We got rich his heritage and history with the Stewart and Lloyd's, the iron foundry. We produced steel that brought lots of different people from all over the world to come and live and work and take up opportunities. And I think if diversity should mean anything, it should mean an equal opportunity for everyone to grow with regards to business, play and enjoyment in our city. Our city is really a great place to live, so diverse, so many different aspects from different parts of the world that people can come and celebrate. So I really do think that Wolverhampton, we've had some bad press in recent years, but I think we can see that we've turned that around. The strength of the Wolverhampton Black Business Network proves that. You were all here this evening. And it's really great to see so many people, and I've talked to a few of the people who are in the audience about their trials and tribulations with regards to business and how we can then support and how people need to communicate with each other. And I think communication is the key to diversity and key to our city. We need to be talking, but more importantly, as an authority, we need to be listening. And I think that's what we're now entering into a stage of listening to people and acting upon. What I will say is we can't do everything, but together we can achieve an enormous amount of good for this city moving forward. So I'm really pleased to be here. And just as I was coming into the room and looking round, I said your vision and objectives. Do you see those there? Do you know what? It's a mirror image of our vision and our objectives. So therefore, we've got commonality. Once we've got commonality, we can move together forward, building this city and moving it to where it should be. I'm really pleased to be here, and thank you very much. It's unfortunate that Ian can't be here, but I don't think he's too well, and my accent's a little bit better, and a lot of people can hear it. So we're really proud of our diversity and in that opportunities. I myself, at the age of 50, did a degree. So that's about opportunities. So not only is it the business sector, it's about the education process that we also need, but we need your voices to give us that education of what your businesses demand moving forward. It's key that we do get that, and it's key that we do listen and we talk to our providers. So that's really important for us in our diversity, for our city moving forward. With regards to that and what we're trying to achieve within the city, we've now got a Relight programme that incorporates much of those things as I've spoke about. So what we want to do is we want to have sustainable growth post-pandemic. So again, that's that communication of what do we need with regards to growth that makes our city different to others, a little bit better, but unique in that process. Relighting is just our framework. It's you guys in the business sector and our communities that will drive that framework forward. That's what I really do believe. We've got an opportunity, we're going down a route of investment with regards to the Wolverhampton Pound. So that it gives us an opportunity to talk to each other, as I mentioned before, to connect with each other and grow and procure in that process. Where we can help, we will. Where we can facilitate, we will. That's about the listening process. We need to also make sure that it's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street. We all walk down together, so as we can listen to what your needs and tribulations are and what ours are and what limits we can do, where you can facilitate in your business moving forward. That, I think, is a grown-up conversation for all businesses. What's really important for this city, and I would say for most of the country, is in that resilience we need more independent businesses and traders within our city. Far too much of the economy in Wolverhampton seeps out and goes into big conglomerates. So what's unique with the business network, the Black Business Network, is that the majority are independent traders. So that's really important. And every independent trader is like double the economy that comes back, that fits into our Wolverhampton Pound. And we can do this because we've done this on a large scale within our city during the pandemic. We've all come together as one to resolve the problems that we face moving forward. I'm really proud of the way that the authority and communities, and the business community as well, has helped forge that. And that's what we need to do. So we need to have open communications. We need to make sure that we can unlock as much opportunity for everyone, especially within such our diverse and the diverse communities that make up Wolverhampton. What I will say on the back of this is that there's a voice for everyone, and everyone should have a voice. So therefore, we need to communicate, and we need to make sure that we listen and then act together, not just on our own. So, have I done for the opening bit? Too much Liverpudlian or too much Bradley and Bilston? All right. So I think we're going to have a little video now. Is that right? So this is just a part of our vision. you will see what we've done in this city. And just as we was walking over to the venue and we was talking about the video, lots of visitors are now going to come into Wolverhampton. And we was talking to David, who'll be speaking later. There's a real buzz about the city. I don't know if you've got that, but we need you to be part of that buzz, and we need you to add that on top. So that's what we're really looking for from this evening. So, video's gone.
Video's not gone.
Oh. No, I'm from Bilston. I'm used to witches. I'll fill in if you want.
Okay then, so, is my mic on? All right, so, what was remiss of me to say, this is our deputy leader of the council, so we didn't get the leader of the council, but we do have the deputy leader of the council. And you've made a good point about Bilston. Someone tried to take a little bit of a strip off me earlier and say Bilston wasn't Wolverhampton and they'd let us in.
It's true, it's not.
Oh, come on.
As everyone in this room, we're fiercely independent, but I like to think I'm deputy leader. We're taking over slowly.
So I'm going to ask you, instead of reading the book, tell us a bit more about yourself.
You want to know? Well, yeah, I'm just a normal working class lad. I've just been talking to Anthony about the school I went to. I went to Hall Green, that was Stonefield, right next to Sankey's and the Steelworks. And I was educated, and this is the key point that I want to make, I was educated to go straight into the factory, so I learned algebra and I learned how to use lathes. And when I left school in 1983, you'll work out how old I am now, Sankey's had gone. And so that's a point that I want to make about education is the key to unlock a successful life. I studied history and war at Wolverhampton University, thoroughly enjoyed it. I never studied comedy, but that's something, the calling I might take up later on in life when I've got a spare minute. But the other point I'd like to make is we've all got titles, we can all put them in, but if you want to talk to me later, please call me Steve or Stephen or that lad from Bilston. So I'll drop all these titles. I'm amongst friends, and I think that's what we want to be, is friends moving forward together.
Right, thank you. He's omitted to tell you that he actually sits on the West Midlands Combined Authority, and he's responsible for HS2.
Not HS2. Listen, HS2 is crucifying us. I don't know if any of your businesses deal with steel or deal with wood. We're waiting to pack the Civic out so we can get more people into it, and we just get the steel and wood. And it's not electric. It's going to be diesel, so I think they've missed the trick there. But I do sit on the Combined Authority. I sit in the investment board, bring the investments, hopefully across the road for the canal side development, and we'll bring a new community in here, bring new businesses in here, new opportunities. We helped facilitate for the new train station, but you're stealing my thunder for my neck a bit.
Oh, okay.
But
right.
I'm at. Just come and talk to me, and you'll get fed up after about 45 minutes. So.
Right. Just before we play the video, now we've got the video. Just to let you know, she's sat quietly in the room and she's hiding from you all. But we do have our Deputy Mayoress in the room with us this evening. Never mind looking around. Stand up so everybody can see who you are.
You all know Sandra. Everybody knows Sandra.
Okay, so we've got video now. We've got sound.
Video engineer. Sound, please.
No, the sound was working from there, so it should be working from there.
It's playing now.
No sound. Oh dear.
Oh, we've got the picture but no sound. So what I'm going to do while I work on the sound, because we are going to play this video tonight, even if it kills me. It won't, but even if it would do, I am going to play this video. So, Councillor Simpkins, thank you for the moment. I'm going to sit you down for a moment, and I'm going to ask, without further ado... Oh.
You got me, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, that's my next bit after the video.
Okay.
Do you want me to I'll talk you through the video if you want me to? Play the video and I'll talk you through it.
Okay, we can do that.
Unless they'll work on it. really what the video will give you, and probably give you better than what I can do, is it gives what we've achieved, but also what our aspirations are. You will see the developments that have gone, and we've got nearly £4.4 billion worth of investment of public and private that's come in, but that's opportunities for the local businesses and new businesses as they develop. You've got a state-of-the-art, multi-award winning train station facade at the front. We're encouraging heavily the Combined Authority and West Midlands Trains to do the whole train station, extend the train station so as we can get more people in, get longer trains. Less trains means a better air quality. As you'll see, it's no mistake that along that walk from the train station to the Grand Theatre is our entertainment sector that moves right to the bottom of the city. So you'll be hit by the Grand Theatre, you'll be hit by the bars that are in and around there. Then you move further into Lichfield Street and you'll see the art gallery. We're having a 80 seat cover cafe stroke restaurant, and I keep bending the ears of officers to make it Michelin star as another offer. Then you'll move further down into the civic halls. We're currently on track to get that up and running by September next year, so that's another opportunity to bring people in. Then you move further down into Victoria Street and School Street, you will see the pop-ups that we're proposed to do, so we've got festivals on. There's also a massive investment that's gone into Bilston with a new business trading estate that's going to go to the market. You'll see the urban village, that's brought loads of new people into our communities, right on the doorstep of Bilston Market. If you've never been to Bilston Market, give it a go, it's fantastic. I go there every Friday to get my fruit and veg. But it's about the commitment that we've made in the city, but what we want to do is share that and share people coming forward. So that's what we're talking about. So we want to be an entertainment city. We want to give people opportunity. Do you imagine if you're a football fan, you watch the Wolves, what are you going to do when you finish the match? Oh, what's on at the Civic, what's on at the Grand, anything on at the art gallery. We also, what we really need to do, and we need your support, is we need a better hotel offer. So we're currently working on a hotel strategy so as we can be the springboard to the Shires, Shropshire, Staffordshire. All these are opportunities, what we want to bring into the city. But we need people, and your support especially, to say what you need and what you think would be. I see my job as bringing people in here, and your job is getting a pound notes out of the pocket and then sustaining your business. But it's what we can do together. And I think I'm pretty excited. I'm excited of what we're going to do with regards to the future. But we need your voices to help shape that future. That's really key and important for us to do that. So that's what we do, re-imaging the city. We're looking at the cultural offer and venues. So we'll have different cultural venues across the city, but not just city centre. Bilston, Tetnall, we'll have some of these venues. You've already seen the Tetnall Fair that was on just lately. That's an opportunity. We need to utilise every asset that we've got. We need to also make sure, with regards to the hotel strategy, we get the visitor economy up, bringing more people into the city. Far too long, I think, we lived in the shadow of Birmingham. You know, it's a journey from Birmingham to here as much as from here to Birmingham. So we want to get on the back of that. We've also got the tram link that will go right into the train station. We've got state-of-the-art transport hub in there. I think you'll see there's a real vibe that's around the city that's coming forward. But what's key with the skills and employment is we get the right education. So we also need to make sure that we get that right. And again, your voices are really key in that. Because again, like I said earlier, them independent traders, we need to have your voice of what's the right courses we need to put on, what's the next big opportunity. The green agenda is really key in that. So if we can drive that, there's all aspects of the green agenda. So that's what we want to do. And like, you know, if you've got to retrofit some of your green energy providers or your green stuff that's in your businesses or at home, we need to be the beacon that comes to us and say, what do we do with regards to green business? How do I get this? And that's the real future. So that's what we need you to do. We need you to come forward and say, I want some help with this, and together we'll do that. Business support is going to be key. It really is. As we've seen in the pandemic, the support that was on offer from the government was really key to some businesses. And what we need to do is we need to give that business support, but we need to give some advice on how it's more sustainable for our future. So we're laying down real foundations in our city. So no matter whatever happens, we can be ready to face any adversity but any opportunity. That's the key, being ready for opportunity moving forward. So I'm excited that we're going to do that, but we need you to shape that business support as well. So you need to tell us what your trials and tribulations are with regards to that, and then we can move forward together. I always feel, and it's probably part of my politics, that being together is always better than being alone. So again, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that your voices are heard, we act upon, and come back and give your answers. Might not be the right ones, might be the right ones for the right time, but we need to encourage anybody that wants to come to this city, set a business up, and have a good life. If the pandemic's taught us anything, life's about living, and we need to live, not exist, we need to live. So, you know, if there's any problems that you face as a group, come to us and let's see if we can work through them together. You know, I've got a great team, Isabel and David, Richard, who's covering for me at the authority. I should be in a scrutiny panel. I'd much rather come here. You're a better an audience, to be fair. No, but all seriously, without the guys and the quality that we've got in our city with officers, we won't be able to do half as much. We also need to make sure that we take calculated risks. I-9 was a calculated risk. It's brought a ministry department into our city. So that's going to be thousands and thousands of people coming into this city from around the country. So we want them to see the best of us. But we also want to make sure that we keep the best of us in our city, and that's you lot here that sat here today. So I don't know if David's up next and he wants to do it, but I'm happy to take any questions if you want. There's any questions you want to ask? Yes, sir.
One question. Current government strategy is focused on driving economic recovery through innovation. This was published 2 months ago. There is also leveling up agenda. How do you see the City Council can leverage those two strategies to stimulate economic recovery, considering innovation, technology? We are moving however into digital economy.
Again, that you're quite right. I don't want to speak for the government. They have exactly the same colour as mine. But if there's an opportunity that the government presents itself, then we will be at the forefront of seizing that. And again, the modern technology is a must. We cannot exist without modern technology. You know, I'm quite lucky because I've left my phone over there, but everybody's got the phone in there on silent. So if it clicks off, somebody will be looking at it, and that's the way the future is. We need to embrace the change, but we need to be ready for the change and manage it to our advantage. So any opportunity that comes from, I could go into detail about levelling up, and it's a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. There's a 15% haircut, it's rebadged as somewhere else, 50% is Towns Fund. I want to get to a place in this city where we're saying, right, this is what we want you to put in the bids, this is what we think it'll help, and this is what we need to do together. And that's what we should be doing. So any opportunity presented by any government, we will be at the forefront of that, and we will be the go-to guys, and we'll be the beacon to passport people. If we can facilitate that, we'll never ever want to miss an opportunity. The COVID grant stuff, I'd never want to send a penny piece back, ever. I've been telling the guys, send it out, find different innovative ways we can get that grant money out, because people need it. Do you know, an 80% of fair loan money is took 20% out of the economy. So, you know, it sounds good, 80% of your wages or you pay staff. That's really great, that's thankful. But there's 20% shrunk straight away out of the economy. So if they can borrow it, and we've gone into trillions of debt, let's borrow it and be sustainable. That's why we need to, as an authority, make sure that anything that we do together is sustainable moving forward to create the jobs of the future, to create the businesses of the future. But more importantly, to create people's success so they can stop and live, and more importantly, play in our city. So we've got the youngest city in the Black Country, I think the West Midlands, and we want to keep that youthfulness. So that's what we need to do, because that's the opportunities for the future. And again, it comes back to the education point. What's the right education that we need? We could all be auditors, we could all be accountants, we could all work in business. But we need to also build citizens that take some ownership of this city, and that's what we need to do. It's your city, you tell us which way we need to drive it together. Any other questions?
All right, if we've not got any more questions, I want to thank our Deputy Leader, Councillor Simkis. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause. and invite to the podium.
I'm going to be careful, he's that police officer.
He is, yes, he is, most definitely, and he's very good at it. So I'd like to invite David Patterson, who is our Chief Operating Officer for Wolverhampton City Council. David came to us a few years ago as our Head of Governance, Director of Governance, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Director of Governance, and David has come on leaps and bounds, if I do say so myself. I can talk about him like that. We're very good friends. We've been working on equalities and doing various pieces of strategic work for the past, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so without further ado, Mr. David Patterson.
Thanks very much for that, Janet. And I have to say, I've got a really hard act to follow after Councillor Simpkins, so unfortunately, I'm nowhere near as funny. I'm a boring lawyer by background, so... yeah. See, I told you. I can't compete. But what I can do is I can share that passion and that commitment that Councillor Simpkins has got for the city. I'm incredibly proud to work for an amazing city like ours, a city that absolutely embraces and has at its heart fairness and diversity and inclusion, and actually it's the diverse communities that make our city the amazing place it is. And I'm so pleased to be here and to talk to you. And one of the things Steve and I both said, we're really keen to come back and actually, keep coming back each year if you'll have us, because actually it's really about what I'm really keen to do is to show the difference that we're making. And, it says here, equality and diversity is the heart of the council, will leave no one behind. That's absolutely critical. It's something I think we've all learnt more than ever during COVID, is actually the way that we tackle things and the way that it's been done so well in our city has been by the community approach. And it's actually been our communities come together. I see a number of people in the room, and I know a lot of them have gone above and beyond making sure that our communities were looked after during the height of the challenge and the height of the problems. And I know we're still not out of COVID, but actually the way that they've come together, and a number of councillors who've run food banks and made sure that people have been supported, and a lot of you here have done that. And that's what's so brilliant about our city, the way actually it looks after its own, it cares about its people. And I think, for me, the key thing here is that we've got a chance as a council and as a community coming together to make a real difference and to really come out of the challenges of COVID and the financial challenges we've got bigger and better. So, what's that all about? Equality and diversity at the heart of everything we do. And I think the key for me, and something I've really learned massively in the last couple of years, and it's something I haven't always been very good at, is being quiet and listening and actually hearing what other people think and actually listening to what you think, listening to what our employees think. And we've got really proud, we've got an amazing equality forums, we've got an amazing equality team at the council, and that's made some real massive changes in the way we do things internally. But I'm really keen that we do a bit more externally as well. I think we're starting to do that, but we've got a real chance to make a massive change and really be known as a city that really celebrates and really can show tangible difference on fairness and inclusion. So one of the things that one of my team always says to me, outcomes. It's it's easy to say those words and they're great and they're lovely, but actually, if I was you, I'd be saying, yeah, that's great. Everyone can say that. You can put up on Black History Month signs across on the road network, and that's brilliant and that's really important. But actually, it's about actually making a real difference. So what are we going to do and what's happening? Lots of things are happening, but one of the things I want to talk to you about tonight, and the thing I think that's really important to you, is actually business and our engagement with business and the way in which it links in with Councillor Simpkins' point about the Wolverhampton pound, how we make sure that the money that we spend, and not just the money that we spend, but also the money that other large bodies spend, so the university, the college, the healthcare sector, the money that we spend doesn't go out of our community, but stays within our community, and in particular, stays within our small and medium enterprises, and in particular, our diverse communities, and really tackles some of the challenges that we've got as a city and makes a real difference. So one of the key things is our youth and youth unemployment, actually making sure that in the contracts that we do, that we're getting apprentices in there, that we are growing our own, that we are really making sure that we've got people coming on. And I've seen it happening within the council, and yeah, I am going to embarrass him. So, we've got some of our EDI team here today, and I think, about people like Jin and Solomon, and watching them grow and then develop, and actually how their careers are developing. I want us to be doing that for everyone in our city, and I want us to make a real difference. So what I want to be coming back to you is actually showing what have we done, what difference have we made on our contract spend in our city? How are we making sure that actually our contracts are fairer? So I don't want it to just be words, and I know we're already doing a lot of work with Janet and with Sam, through Isabel and her team, and Jin, our EDI team, but actually making a real difference to make sure that we're going to change our procurement rules so we take diversity far more into account, so that we make sure that actually the money does stay in Wolverhampton, and that's where there's an opportunity for you. And it's, again, working with you to give you the support to make it easier to do business with local authorities, easier to do business with public bodies. So it isn't just you've got to employ a bid writer and it's a 500-page document you have to fill in and those sort of things, actually trying to make it a lot easier. And like I said, listening. The reason I'm here tonight is to actually hear where things haven't gone right. One of the things that I've said all the way through is I'll be comfortable with the uncomfortable. We're going to do the right thing, but I want to hear where it's not working. I want to hear when it isn't working right, so we can make that change. Because actually, that's where we come together. As Councillor Simpkins said, it's about actually together we've got a real opportunity for our city to make sure that we really push it on and we can help you, support you, grow, because actually that's how we're going to come out of this, is actually by developing businesses like the ones in the room tonight, you providing more and more jobs to our residents and actually helping you doing business with us. And it's not just about the council always being your business partner, but we can help you develop so you can find other people too, and making sure that there's that network chain. So our key point is making sure that our spend stays in our city, in our local economy, and that's where I'm going to be pushing really, really hard. And I want to be able to come back to you next year and say, it was this spend, it's now this is really starting to make a difference. So I think one of the key things is being held to account. So someone said, how do you know if you're making a difference in quality? Well, listening, that's important, acting on it, but then accountability. And it's actually being transparent and being held to account, and I'm more than happy to be held to account by you. And in fact, I want to be, and I want to hear when things aren't working right as well. And we've got our team tonight here to actually talk about business support. Sorry. My metaphorical door is always open. I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to make sure that we do this together. And we do it in partnership. We will make difference and we will improve. Thank you very much. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that, David. All right, does anybody have any questions? Just one quick question, because we do have a panel later.
Sorry.
Right, gentleman at the back of the room.
Yeah.
Excuse me, could you just hold on 1 second and we'll bring a microphone to you.
Thank you. Hi. My question is just about outcomes, really, and during the pandemic. So the gentleman, Deputy Councillor Stephen Simpkins, talked about the grant funding. Yeah. So my question is about, do we have transparent data on the proportion of grant funding that went towards black businesses and towards others? Is that publicly available, and how do you trace that? And also, is it possible to, I mean, it's a great way in this forum now, but how do you actually communicate and integrate these businesses on a daily basis so those outcomes get there? Thank you.
They're really fair challenges. So I will find out for you, and I'll happily share it with you, that data. So whatever we've got, I want us to be transparent on it, and that's really important. So one of the things that we're doing is improving massively our monitoring on data. So I want to be able to show that actually what difference are we making. So the only way you can make a difference is if you can show what you're doing, and then you can benchmark against it. So that is something we're pushing much, much harder on, and I'll keep pushing, and I'll keep coming back and happily being challenged on it. Sorry, your second point was
about how you
engage.
Yeah,
sorry,
engage.
okay,
Yeah.
Sorry. That's part of the reason for being here tonight, and keep coming back. And I'm happy to do that whenever. I know that we engage through Sam and through Janet, but also happy to and Isabel's team do that. But really keen to make that happen more, because actually that's how we learn. And I think about the things that we've improved at the council. the best ideas, they've not come from me, they've not even come from Jen or Solomon, even though they're brilliant. They've actually come from our forums. They've come from our staff. So we had a bit of some of the staff had concerns about certain things. Some amazing ideas have come out because actually we've listened to them, and that's why I'm here tonight, is to listen to you. And I'll be around all evening. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Thank you, David. I'll just hand over to Celia for our next speaker.
All right, you've got me now. I'm Celia, as you already know. I'm a councillor representing Penward Wolverhampton, but I'm not here in my councillor capacity. I'm here as a co-host. I think this is the 4th year or 5th year I'm hosting this. Yes, the 5th year I'm hosting this. Can I just quickly say, before I introduce the next speaker, that I was panicking when I didn't get invited to host this year's Black Business Network. I thought, oh my God, I must have grown older. And then last minute, I got the call from Sam. I thought, yay, okay, I'm gonna make sure I dress 10 years younger so he can, joking, so he can call me again next year. I just love hosting Black Business Network. We have come very far, absolutely far, because I know what the first one was like. I know what the second one was like, the third one. The first page here, you can see the 2019 one. I'm actually sat there. So we followed the progress, and we are making progress, definitely making progress. Before I go forward, I just want to quickly recognize Dr. Marcia. She's here. She's also in this picture in 2019. She's the CEO. Is she here? Yes, she is here. She's the CEO of Phoenix Newspaper. You know the, yes? Exactly. Yes, please give her a round of applause. I'm so happy to see you again. There are a lot of veterans in this room, people that, yes, veterans in terms of support, people that have been here for the last 5 years and stuff. Okay, we've listened to Councillor Stephen Simpkins. He's a fellow councillor, but obviously he's the deputy leader. We've listened to David Patterson. One thing I want you guys to take away from what the Councillor Stephen Simpkins have said is the business support. That question that's come from you there is very, very tangible. So, but I'm happy that Councillor Stephen has actually given us that commitment about business support. He's talked about lots of opportunity, and to be honest, there are lots of opportunities because our council is now moving into the Green New Deals. So that will open up, limitless amount of opportunities, and it's up to us, the Black community, to tap into those opportunities. I know we are slow to go digitalized because some of our, customership is that way, but we must drag them into the 21st century. Not just here, globalization as well. We need to drag Africa into the 21st century because the world is being globalized. We are moving into internet, and we must interact with each other. Europe, America, Asia, Africa. We cannot leave Africa behind, guys. Right, yes. Okay, calculated risks. So that's part of the calculated risk. If you're thinking, okay, somebody buying yam, there's no need to go into Uber Eats. Please do go into Uber Eats because our kids will be shopping that way. So the modal shift is real. We need to drag ourselves into the 21st century. We might not know how to operate the computers. Our kids do, and that's the way they're going to shop. So we have to sit down with the makers and shakers of the council and tap into those innovations and inform our own habits of shopping so we can all come together and do something that we can benefit from as Africans and as Black people. Okay, Patterson talked about equality and diversity. I can guarantee you he walks his talk. I've worked with him a lot in the council. Please meet him after this. When we have the session, meet him, get the contact, and pursue him to deliver on his promises. Right. I have the honor of introducing Kevin Davies. Kevin Davies is CEO of Vine Trust Group and non-executive director of the Black Country LEP. So LEP is Local Enterprise Partnership, if I'm correct. He is an award winner, MBA educated, Black country-based social entrepreneur. Please don't mind my accent. I mix everything up. I'm a migrant. So with a passion for, yes I am, a proud one. With a passion for social mobility and social justice. For the over 24 years, he has pioneered particularly in the areas of education, employment, and community engagement. This has been principally as the CEO of one of the region's long-standing social enterprise. He's done so much. I'm not going to really go through it. If I do go through, we might end up living here in December. So, but finally, really, beyond his role in advising businesses and central local government on equality and diversity, like David Patterson, and inclusion, Kevin is co-founder of Warsaw Studio, where I did my master's in sports and exercise science. That's me, that's not Kevin, by the way. So, Ladder School, the Mercian Multi Academy Trust, and West Midlands School for Social Entrepreneurs. As founding chairman of the Ladder Apprenticeship Foundation, which in collaboration with training providers, the media and LEPs, Kevin is facilitating the creation of 1,000 of apprenticeship across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kevin Davis.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good evening, folks. Resilience. Resilience is supporting a football club for over 30 years and not winning the top prize. Right? So a big hand for Liverpool Football Club, everyone. Well, folks, I'm not from Wolverhampton. You can tell from my accent. In fact, I don't support Wolves. Does anyone support Wolves here? That's the three of you there. Fantastic. Well done. In fact, I'm from Warsaw, fundamentally, and I don't support Warsaw. But I do have family in Liverpool, and that's always my claim. But for 30 odd years, we had won the Premiership, but we did it, the Premier League, fantastic. And in fact, it's a bone of contention because my dad is here, and he's from Wolverhampton, or lives in Wolverhampton for over 20 years, and he's an Arsenal fan, so that's terrible. So Dad, let me honour my father. Stand up, Dad. There you go. Round of applause for the Rock, the originator of... It's not often we... Thanks, Dad. You can sit down now. You can sit down now. It's not often you get him out to come and hear you. But, folks, resilience, which is the title of our what I've been asked to speak about today, is fundamental to all of us. And I want to talk a little bit about that, if you could. Yes, you've heard... Just thank you for the list of things that says what I've done, and some of it is true. Some of it is a work in progress, absolutely. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about that journey, and hopefully encourage you, maybe inspire you, perhaps, to go away and think about how that relates to your situations and how that can relate to your sharing with everyone else. So, as it's been said, if you ask me what I do, I'm a social entrepreneur. I think that's the fundamental aspect of what I'm about. And that means what I want to do is, as a business person, which we are, make a real difference in our communities. And that's fundamental. And through probably going to my 25th year of doing this journey, I've learned lots of lessons, some very quickly, and some a bit longer than it should be. Right? But that was all through the lessons of resilience. Now, as an elder in a local church, and I'm sure we've got a few faithful people here. We've got Bishop King there, God bless you, Bishop, and a few others. You'd be very familiar with this next slide, please. And it links with resilience. And it says this: for a just man falleth 7 times and rises up again. Or in other words, you might have heard it said, fall 7 times, but get up 8. And that is a key definition of resilience, I would say, folks, which is obviously this conference theme. And over as I said, my journey doing that's been my journey of making mistakes and hopefully learning from them to get us to where we need to be. Setting up from scratch 3 secondary schools, which, trust me, is no mean feat. It is a tough thing to set up 3 of the 20 odd years of doing this, setting up 3 secondary schools from scratch. Next slide. And those schools were the Second Chances School, which is my first independent school. We set up working with probably the most difficult kids that education system said they were difficult, but needed a different approach to teaching and learning. And with that different approach to teaching and learning, to get them back into education. To say to a 14-year-old, life's over because you've been kicked out of school, and a lot of those kids will look like me, look like you, was a travesty.
and something needs to be done. And yet some of the schools at the time didn't have the capacity, the know-how, and dare I say, the will to want to do things like. So that's where we started. And then when we grew the school, the Department of Education says, you've got to become formally registered and do more. And that was a choice we had to make, to say, do we just stay small and do what we're doing, make the difference, as significant as it was to those young people, or do we grow to try and increase our influence? And one thing I learned about doing that is that the money in the independent sector was tough. Trying to convince schools to send their kids to us, which they wanted to do, but they didn't want to pay, right? Or to pay the right rate. And in paying people, which in us, you get the quality of staff. And that's a big challenge, to try and maintain a service and a business with, yes, goodwill is great, and we had lots of folks around who wanted to make a difference, but needed the training and the skills to make that difference within our community. The second school we set up, in the end, we went into mainstream, was Walsall Studio School, which you'll hear a bit more about later. And then the last one, which was the new one I started from scratch, was the Ladder School. And that journey of pursuing justice for disaffected, as they call them, young people, has been my heartbeat. And it saw me partner, for example, with friends around the table here today. Because what I realized in that journey, you can do things excellent on your own, but sometimes it can be just a drop in the ocean. And that message of collaboration, of working together, is a message that we should all hear. And that might be sometimes working with people that you don't necessarily get on with, or necessarily meet eye to eye originally on the face of it. But that collaboration, that economy of working together is critical for us going forward. And I feel like I'm an adopted Wolverhampton citizen, because I've been working over the last year trying to encourage some of that activity. And I probably won't go as far as supporting the Wolves, but I might attend one of your football matches from the Liverpool side, probably. Next slide, please. For 10 years, in that message of supporting young people, I worked with an international retail, furniture retailer. I won't any clues who they are. But I worked with them across the UK, in Ireland, France, and Spain to set up their apprenticeship programs in their stores. But an apprenticeship and skills program to engage with the young people that wouldn't go through their assessment centres, because they weren't set up to do that. And so we worked with them across most of their stores across England, Wales. I remember having to go over to Dublin to try and set it up from scratch, completely different system, but again, working with them to say, actually, change your processes and systems slightly. I'm not saying lower your standards, I'm not saying that change every criteria, but if you adjust it in such a way, you'll be able to get talent. And they got talent, and talent that has progressed through their businesses. And we did that for over 10 years. But again, I recognised, although it was an international retailer, furniture retailer, it was just a drop in the ocean. And we needed to expand and grow that idea of businesses engaging and supporting young people in a different way than before. Next slide, please. And one of the examples of doing that is through what we call the ladder. Back in 2012, the Evening Standard newspaper, with the support of the then Mayor, Boris Johnson, wanted to address the issues of youth unemployment in the capital. And so what they did, the Evening Standard, is encourage businesses big and small, so the likes of Goldman Sachs and Metro Bank, down to the plumbers in Shoreditch, to say, let's do a 12-month campaign to encourage those businesses to take on apprentices, to create a meeting hub of training providers, trades bodies, as well as ordinary folks, to say, can we tackle those issues? And that's exactly what they did. And I think they, in the space of 12 months, created about 1,500 new apprenticeships as a consequence of that. I was then approached in the Black Country to say, could we do that in the Black Country? And obviously we don't have the Evening Standard, but we have the Express and Star. And I had to persuade the Express and Star, backwards and forwards meetings in London, to say, we had a challenge back in 2014 around youth unemployment. And you know the Black Country has one of the highest levels of youth population in the country. But we also have then, which we do now, have the highest levels of youth unemployment. And it's a critical issue for us to address. But we did it nonetheless with the Express and Star, got the partners around the table from the Chamber, the local authorities, the LEP, and launched the Ladder for Black Country in 2014. And then the sister newspaper for Shropshire approached us and said, could we do it in Shropshire? Different issues, rural unemployment. But we said, okay, let's have a go. And then we launched the Ladder for Shropshire. Staffordshire came on board very quickly, but it was a different newspaper group. It was Trinity Mirror, who owned the majority of regional newspapers, but we got them to work together. And then Trinity Mirror, I said, okay, let's see if we could do this across Greater Birmingham and across the LEP area of Greater Birmingham. And Trinity Mirror agreed, but they wanted to do something different than the Black Country because there's a bit of competition between the Black Country. Let's do an awards. And I said, okay, let's do an awards to celebrate apprenticeships, let's celebrate what we're doing in the city. And so they hired out Edgbaston Cricket Ground, and we launched the first Ladder for Birmingham Apprenticeship Awards in Edgbaston in 2019. And now the mandate we've got now through the Ladder Apprenticeship Foundation, which now is the wrapper around it, is to go to every regional newspaper, because Reach have said to us, who own the regional newspapers, let's go across the whole country. And that's exactly what we're doing. So it's not 1,000 apprenticeships, it's 10,000 apprenticeships we're going for as a consequence of that. Because in this pandemic, folks, our young people have been hit. They've been hit terribly by it, and we need to do something about it. And so now more than ever, initiatives like the Ladder and the message of us working together are critical, and we need to continue that. Next slide, please. That message of resilience. Let me read a definition for you. Most of us think that resilience has the ability is about the ability for us to bend and not to break, to bounce back, and perhaps even grow in the face of adverse life experiences. The American Psychological Association defined it as this, as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. But it does not reflect the complex nature of that definition of resilience, which can include biological, psychological, social, and cultural factors that interact with one another to determine how we respond to stressful situations. And that is one of the lessons which we need to learn. This is not just about business lessons today, about balance sheets and profit and loss. It's about us as individuals, because we're not just business people, we are people. And what affects us in our personal life also affects us in our business life. And as an educator, next slide please, I asked the question, and as asked of me, is can resilience be taught? Can it be taught? Well, I think it can be, because I've learned from my experience and the experience of others and sought to pass it on to friends and colleagues, corporately and individually. And sometimes I use the word tenacity. Tenacity is a key word to describe certainly my business resilience experience, because fallen I have, as I've said, fallen down many times in this journey when financiers have said to me, get real, when I needed my first £3 million to build my second school. Get real, right? Next slide, you'll see the Goldmine Centre, which we opened up in 2012. 10 years of visioning for that facility to happen. 10 years for us dreaming of a facility that could house one of our schools, a place that would create community to show events and shows to bring people together. £3 million, which at the time I hadn't got a penny. But through resilience, through having good people around you, to having a vision, folks, which is critical for your journey, is important. Next slide, please. When developers held out for almost 10 years for the creation of our emerging education quarter in Walsall, resilience, friends. Resilience when friends and foe said, pie in the sky. Get real, right? Resilience when you dreamt of physical and educational transformation across the town of Walsall, which obviously I herald from. Resilience, but I'm still here. Still here. Next slide. That was taken, my goodness, a couple of weeks ago. Isabel will probably remember that one, because you were in Walsall at one stage, and before Wolverhampton poached there. But she will recognise that site, the Shannon Mill site, which used to be a historic building in Walsall, which got burnt down. And I was after that site for many, many years to say, well, just do something with it. Just don't leave it as a brownfield site. We need to do something with it. And this dream of having an education quarter, I kept peddling it to councillors, to business people, to financiers. And then, where are we now? 2021? Yeah? The steels have gone up. We got the steel, council, I'm afraid. Sorry. Right? And it will be ready in May next year. The St Matthew's Education Quarter. And it's part of the story of how do we have that message together, do our bit to marry it with the messages that folks have communicated today. But, you know, I've said my dad was here, and was one of the reasons for why, well, absolutely is the reason I'm here. I don't have to go into the detail for that. Absolutely. That's after hours, that is, folks, yeah. But, next slide, please. My roots, folks, and my dear grandmother, Doris, my late grandmother, Doris, my dad's mother, I remember speaking at her funeral, I think it was a year or so before the pandemic kicked in, and helping just tell a bit of the story about her journey of resilience, coming from Jamaica, living in what some of us would call squalor, in a little room with a curtain separating families, right? But resilience was the message, because she had a dream. My grandfather had a dream for her kids, that they would do better than them, that they would have a future, traveling like the rest of the Windrush generation, about saying we want to do something. And so we know the value of what they did for our community, even if others haven't. And hopefully folks are learning that lesson now. But we need to keep strong and be resilient in that message, folks, because the journey is not over. And Doris was a businesswoman in some respects. She ran the Partner. You know what Partner is? Yeah. She was the woman who had all the money. People used to come and get the Partner, make sure you pay your Partner, right? Everyone had to do that, and she did that, and she taught me a little bit about money. God bless her. I miss her very much. And closer to home, next slide, please. You know this lady here, and her struggles. Very sad story, as we know, Paulette Wilson, which resonates still in Wolverhampton, and has resonated all the way to London and to the Home Office. And our civic leaders, we've heard some of them today, but our national civic leaders need to keep hearing that message, that our resilience will not give up. We will still keep that message going about equality, diversity, inclusion, meaning something real to the people of Wolverhampton. We need to keep their feet very closely to the coals on that. A message that is clear, transparent, and accessible. And I hope, certainly for this business network, we need to support each other in that. No one could have prepared us for COVID-19. No one had the crystal ball about it and its impact, particularly on our community. Terrible impact on some of our communities. Well, I say no one could have prepared us for it in terms of that crystal ball about COVID, but we didn't need a crystal ball to predict that the challenges of systemic and structural racism in our society were there before the pandemic. And we need to still be resilient to fight against that, my brothers and sisters. Next slide, please. And to that end, it's not just about me. In terms of my business experience, I've learned that we have to pass it on. We have to keep that message. And as I said at the beginning, or your councillor at the beginning introduced me as part of the local enterprise partnership. So the Black Country Lab is a consortium of the 4 local authorities, the university, the colleges, and they're working, let's call it, for the peace and prosperity of our region. And they have been for many, many years. And I joined them a few years ago to help on that journey, share some of my experience. But I just didn't want to be someone that just sat on a board and just nodded my head. I said, actually, if we're going to do this, let's be serious about it. And as horrible as the pandemic has been, folks, and it has been horrible, what it has done is presented an opportunity for people to start thinking, what's this recovery going to look like? Because it has impacted our people. But we need to do something different. So one of the things we're doing, and it's still a work in progress, is articulating something we call the economy of together. What could our economy look like if we did really pull together? What would our economy look like if equalities, education, enterprise, and environment were on a level playing field for everyone? And maybe people from this room, people outside of this room that we know could be part of that journey across the sectors. And that's what I'm working on. So next slide. Can resilience be taught? That's what I said near the beginning. As a social entrepreneur in the business of education, I ask that question. It's not a rhetorical one. Can resilience be taught? I think it can be. And I pose that question today at this business conference as the chairman of a nearly 6,000 student body, the Mercian Multi-Academy Trust, which, subject to a regulator, will have 9,000 students, 9 schools, a turnover of nearly £50 million. So we're not quite a small business anymore. But that was the resilience. And ask me 25 years ago whether we get to the stage where we are now. I'll be honest with you, that wasn't where my dream was. I was happy with getting the first school up, never mind the second one. But I realised that to get the change that we want, we need some scale. And scale is exactly what we're working for. So the Mercian Trust now has an eclectic mix of the 3 schools that I set up myself. We created a joint venture, which is the Mercian Trust, and embraced 2 selective grammar schools and 2 general comprehensives, and we'll be taking on 3 general comprehensives hopefully in the new year. And that mix of different pedagogical approaches for learning hopefully will help and enable our students to get the best education, the right education for them. And thank you. And passing it on, teaching resilience is an important message. So you're going to hear later from one of my students, Keanu Chang, who was the first head boy of our studio school, and I'm very proud of him. He's a Wolverhampton guy. Yeah, well, I don't think he supports the Wolves, he supports Man United. So you've got some work to do, folks, on that one. But Keanu's a very bright student. He was at King Edward School, but he made a choice to come to our sixth form when we set it up because he believed in what we were presenting in terms of a vocational school and a school that had real-time experience. And because I'm a board member of Business in the Community, I managed to get some top executives from industry to come to our school to do a Seniors Believing event. And one of them was a guy called Stephen Leonard, who's a general manager of IBM. And I said to our sixth formers, these are the captains of industry around the table. Go get them. And Keanu went after Stephen Leonard. And I think Stephen Leonard, he'll tell his story, but Stephen Leonard basically said, if you get through school, get to university, which he did at Royal Holloway, then I'll open an opportunity for you to have an internship whilst you're at university. And if you do well, subject to the processes, we'll get you a job at IBM. And he got a job at IBM. Hallelujah. And I don't want to take Keanu's thunder, but I remember him coming to me and saying, after he got the job at IBM, Kevin, I'm going to leave IBM. And I'm like, after all that struggle, I said, what are you going to do? He said, I want to start my own business, my own tech firm. And, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, and I recognize entrepreneurship in this young man here. And I was so proud that he's done it. And you'll hear his story later, so I'm not going to tell you, but it's a fantastic story, so you'll hear about it later. So coming towards the end now of my very quick 7 lessons, very quick ones. So again, Bishop King, write the vision, make it plain, so they may run. Though it tarries, though it seems delayed, though it lingers, wait for it, it speaks, it doesn't lie, it shall surely come to pass. That's from the good book we've heard about today. So, lesson 1. Write the vision down. Folks, you need a vision, right? Don't complain about this, that, the other. Where are you heading to? And that's part of your vision plan for your business, right? Hold it down, because in bad times, that's what you go to, right? What is it you're trying to do? Write the vision. Second one, make it plain, right? Don't come with a scrap of paper to your finances or staff about what you're doing. You've got to have a business plan that is credible. And if you need support, then there's people like Sam and this group here that could help you develop that. So that is me there. I had a business plan which I presented to Goldman Sachs. You know, Goldman Sachs, yeah? And they helped me develop my plans, right? And I give credit to that. And hopefully he's here. My brother Byron Clark, Wave Byron Clark, which you're going to hear about later, he also was on that 10,000 Small Business Program. So some of us are going to champion that. But you know what Goldman Sachs is saying to us at the moment? There's not enough black businesses on that program. Not enough Wolverhampton businesses on that program, right? So we need to do something about it. So myself, Byron, you'll hear a bit of story, are going to try and encourage your good selves, maybe working with Sam and Janet, but also encouraging Goldman's to make sure that they change their systems in such a way that Wolverhampton black businesses can access programs like that so they can have the scale that I've experienced. You'll hear about Byron's story lesson later on to that end. Number 3, write it on tablets, as I said it on that word. So get it down, write it down so you can check it, go back to it, step by step, so that you can enable you to move on to that next step in order, next slide, for others to run with it. Right? Have the vision so you can pass it on to someone else, whether it's financiers or people that you want to join your team. That's important. And the big lesson, though it's delayed. Folks, I wanted my first school to happen in the first 3 years. It took me 10 years to get it to happen. And now another 10 years for for the 6 and then the 9 that's going to come. You've got to be patient. And that's part of the resilient story, the resilient message, as you see from the timeline. Because if you wait for it, next slide, as the scripture says, the good book says, it shall surely come to pass. And it's not a lie. And you'll get people who are saying to you, oh, it's a pipe dream. Hold on to it, folks. I'm not talking about wishy-washy thinking, but if you really believe in what you're doing, stick to it. It shall surely come to pass. And then you can see that journey there. So skip the next slide. The last slide for me then. I probably shouldn't have had the black guy on the floor, should I? at the Wolverhampton. But the lesson about you fall down, folks, because you get back up again. Fall 7 times, get up 8. Thank you.
All right, just before I hand over to Celia to introduce our next speaker, someone's left their car lights on. The registration is BN57BYM. So that's BN57BYM. I'd hate for anybody to go out after this tonight and not be able to get home because their car won't start. Celia, over to you.
Right, I got carried away listening to Kevin Davis. Never realized I'll be introducing the next speaker. That was absolutely inspirational. Absolutely inspirational. Please, let's give him another round of applause. Even I want to leave politics now and go into business. That was how impactful, that was how very impactful what he shared with us is. I'm not going to say was, is, because that should be alive in every single one of us businesses in the room. I have the delight of introducing another speaker, and I hope he's going to be as good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you in on the spot, but you've got a large shoe to fill. Anthony Davis, another Davis in the room, so that's a good omen. Not related. Okay, we need to do a DNA first. I'm joking. DNA. Dad. Anyway, yeah. Anthony Davis is a self-employed businessman, and he's been a self-employed businessman for over 25 years. He is in the Managing Director of Security and Fire Services, a member of the SSAIB accredited security body, and Managing Director of Quick Food Products Limited. Mr. Davies is a member of Salsa Food accredited body, both businesses based in Wolverhampton. The origins of Quick Foods also known as the original patty company. I like patties, actually. I normally buy them from home to home. The company started in 1960s when Oswald and Maureen Young immigrated to England. They set up a small family bakery in Manchester called Hot Bake and produced Jamaican patties, a popular Jamaican street food. Like I said, I like patties. I do. I know our deputy mayor loves patties too. She's sitting there and like, so, yeah, I know. The patties were extremely popular and went down a storm with the local community. Later on, the Young family scaled up their production, building a bigger bakery in Wolverhampton. This time, selling to food retailers around the country. Finally, it was later purchased as going concern by Mr. Davis and his family. The Quick Foods company has undergone a rebrand to the original party company, now selling products to all major retailers. I actually see their parties in some of the shops when I go. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Davis.
You're going to adjust my mic as well. A bit more height.
Taller Davis.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay. That will do. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. Just want to 1 second. Just want to congratulate Sam and the team for West Midlands Black Business on their 5th annual conference. Let's just give them a clap because to me, it's a good thing, and I'm fully supportive of that. Right, my name's Anthony Davis. I'm married 26 years, got 3 children and 3 grandchildren. And I know I don't look old enough, so please give me a clap as well. All right. Okay, I've been in business for over 25 years, as was previously mentioned. I run a security and alarm company. We install alarm systems and camera systems and access control up and down the country. Our systems are accredited. We're on about 16 different police force authorities as well. So we're able to install systems with police response as well. Okay. Now, I've been asked to talk about my last 12 months' experience with the COVID and my patty company as well. Is it safe to say that we all know what a curry patty is? Is there anybody that doesn't know what a curry patty is? Hold up your hands. A bit embarrassed, I know. Okay, right, okay. Actually, well, I was, but you know what I mean. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. There was a bit of a background already about the business anyway. As it was mentioned earlier, you did say what I was going to say actually. It was started by the Oswald Maureen from Manchester. I'll just skip that part. Yeah. Okay. So basically, the Youngs were the previous owners of the business back in the 60s, which I used to go there with my dad in the, let's say, the 80s to actually buy patties as well. And I used to always enjoy having the patties back then as well. It was, I thought to myself, wow, these patties are nice. You know what I mean? And then, where are we now? So they decided that they wanted to immigrate back to Canada about 8 years ago. And I was good friends with their sons, and we used to always link up, and I went to their weddings and everything. So when they wanted to sell the business, they actually said, you know what, Anthony, you're a good guy, you're already in business with my alarm company. They wanted to pass the business to somebody within the community. And they said to me, would I be interested in purchasing the business? At the time, I was too busy just running up in the country, and I think, well, what do I know about food business? You know, it's just not really for me, really. And they were pretty insistent on me actually purchasing the business because they could see what I was doing with my security company. So I made them an offer, they turned it down, and then I thought, oh, okay, cheek. You know what I mean? But then again, my offer was quite low. Made them another offer again, and they accepted the offer. And here we are today. So we celebrated 50 years of making patties about 4 years ago. So thank you. And you'll be pleased to know that, 50 years of making patties, and we're now I can confirm now, we're in Asda, Iceland Food Warehouse, we're in Costco, we're in Farm Foods, we're in Heron Foods, and we're in selected B&Ms, and we're also in thousands of independent retailers up and down the country. Okay, so thank you. The journey has been challenging in many ways because I've obviously taken over a company, a food business, which at the time was quite small. We employed at the time about 5 people, and now we're on about 38 members of staff at the moment. And one thing that, there's quite a few things that actually happened, which, sorry, just reading from my notes. Yeah. Okay, there's a few things, many challenges that we had to do in terms of scaling up the business. Going from only selling to independent retailers and then selling to your larger stores, scaling was a massive issue to actually scale such a small business. So I had to learn very quickly. Things like IT, staffing, equipment, innovation, making things better, making things easier for the staff to handle the volume as well. All those challenges that we had to do, we fell over, we picked up ourselves. I thought throwing a lot of staff at it at first was going to help us to accommodate the actual volume itself. That just created a lot of expense. I mean, we ended up having to purchase better equipment, better machines. That way we could then cope with the volume and reduce the actual staffing itself as well. So that was one of the ways that we actually was able to upscale the business. Last year, when we talked about COVID and to see how the COVID, Sam asked me to talk about COVID, how it was COVID affecting the business. It did affect the business in many ways. When COVID first started, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. It was, I thought, well, boy, is the business still going to be here? And nobody really was sure of the actual consequences of COVID. So we just kind of batten down the hatches and then just ride the wave. One thing that I did notice is that everybody was panic buying. So everybody was panic buying and just losing. Toilet paper was going and flour. I mean, I like to make fresh bread on the weekend. I couldn't even get no flour for the bread. But then what also happened as well, people was panic buying curry patties. I thought, whoa, my word. So we had to. So we actually went into panic mode ourselves as well because we do a lot of patties now, but for about 4 or 5 months we were struggling. We had to take on a lot of staff during COVID, and we were struggling. We were struggling badly. So we had a lot of staff. We had to put on more shifts as well because the panic buying was getting crazy. And I was thinking, boy, even though it's good in one sense, but we was struggling. The staff were actually struggling to actually cope with the extra hours and the burden that we put on them as well. Luckily, we had new machines as well that was installed just prior to COVID. So we really put them through the paces as well. So so I can't say that COVID has treated us bad, but things has kind of eased down a bit now as well. So we've kind of gone back to some kind of normality. So I can hands on heart say that curry patties, toilet paper, flour, all those things should go in the same breath. Okay. Yeah. So the challenges that we've saw during COVID was things like deliveries. Deliveries became a bit of an issue during COVID. I could see that things was, when I say deliveries, we deliver into Asda's warehouse and their depots as well. We deliver into all Farm Foods, Heron Foods, everybody's depots. And what I've begun to notice is that things didn't really, we'd make plans for deliveries and then we'd start to get phone calls, we can't find a driver, or the driver's rang in sick, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, at first, well, this thing's become a bit of a joke, really, but when you see on the news as well, there's a national shortage of drivers. So over the past 12 months, it's been very, very challenging in getting our goods to the like the Asda's and all these different warehouses, especially because companies like Asda, Costco, they all have different days for food, dry goods days, they have frozen days, fresh days. So we're kind of limited on the delivery days that we can do. But then I found with all the cancellations because of drivers not being able to actually get our deliveries into their depots, it's causing a massive problem in the supply chain for us, but not just us, all the food chain itself as well. So there is definitely something going on where that's concerned. I don't know if that's going to get any better, but that's still current right now as we speak. Even today, we had some cancellations. We had some lorries lined up for Heron Foods, and that's being moved now till tomorrow as well. And then tomorrow I'm thinking, gosh, I hope it can happen, or else things will roll into next week as well. One of the challenges that you have with fresh food is that companies like Asda, they limit you on the expiry date, so they will only have food coming into them with approximately, say, 16-day shelf life for the fresh ones. So you can imagine when you've made, say, 15 pallets of patties, and then you get deliveries pushed forward 2 days, 3 days, then you start to get to a point where you start thinking, well, I'm going to start, these patties ain't going to be no good because Asda's not going to accept it. But then Asda's saying, well, we just want our patties with the right date. They're not really looking at the bit in between where I'm getting hammered with all these cancellations as well. So that in itself is actually a massive challenge for us as a business as well. And as I said, it's caused me a problem even as today as well. During lockdown, I'm pleased to announce as well that we actually opened up our first kiosk. I don't know if you can see, it's not a very good picture, just here on the bottom, just there. We opened a kiosk actually in the Bull Ring, so it's not in Wolverhampton, unfortunately. Sorry. Okay. What it is, you've been there? Oh, very good, thank you. What it is, we actually bake the patties fresh from the kiosk itself. That was one of my dreams as well, that when I brought the business and my visions was to actually have somewhere where we can bake the patties fresh in the shopping centres as well. So if you go in from where the Bull is and you go straight in, we've got a kiosk just there. And what we're doing now, we're actually in talks with 4 more shopping centres up and down the country as well that we're looking to actually launch the kiosk as well. So we've just managed to get all the wrinkles ironed out. And that's what we'll be doing moving forward as well. So that's part of our expansion plan as well. Right, yeah, what I was going to say as well, I know that running a business is not for everybody, but for those of us that want to do branch out, I would say to you that be positive, don't be afraid to take things on. Don't be afraid of the challenge as well. I always say, always have a plan. No plan is plan to fail. So always have a plan. People ask me what keeps me motivated. Success keeps me motivated. Independence, creating employment, and being able to look after my family as well. I also believe in setting an example for our young and up-and-coming young people, because they are, especially people within our community, because they are the next business people, they are the next entrepreneurs, and we really do need to make sure whatever we're doing as, I was going to say middle-aged people, right, that we always include our youngsters coming up behind us, because the prison system itself has too much of our people in as well, and what it is, there's not enough mentors, there's not enough examples of people doing well. That's why I was very inspired by what you're doing as well, Mr. Davis, the same surname as me, you know what I mean? So we're going to have to talk about our dads and see if there's anything. Okay, yeah. So now to me that's very important. I always say people buy from people. You know what I mean? So I always say to individuals, make sure you work on yourself. You know what I mean? Make sure that you present yourself correctly as well. When you're looking to sit down in boardrooms or you want to go to the likes of your Asda's to say, okay, well, my product is good, put it on the shelf. You need to make sure that your delivery is good as well. Okay. I'm in the food business, and as you know, curry patties, it's a fierce market. You know what I mean? When I went into it and I bought the company, I didn't allow whatever was out there to make me fearful. I just knew that what I had was good. I liked it. I used to have it when I was young, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to just go for it and try and get it to the masses as well. One of the things that we did do in the business was rebrand it, and we called it the Original Patty. And I think the name was quite fitting because the company's been going for over 50 years. When you have a look around and see how many other patty companies has been going for that length of time, you're going to be hard pushed. So that's why our name, Original Patty Company, was very fitting, and that's why we actually rebranded it as the Original Patty Company. This is an insight into what I do. What I would say to you as well, one thing as business people as well, make sure you look after your health, look after yourself, invest in yourself, spend time with yourself and just nurture yourself. Make sure that you got the right mindset. A lot of us carry on in business, we do well, but we also burn out as well. Then we ain't got no use to ourselves, no use to our families. And really, I mean, I said before, I am in business for my family. I want to be here to enjoy my grandkids, get married, I want to enjoy my kids, all that kind of stuff, but I don't want to be like a shell. So invest in yourself anyway. All right, so thanks for hearing me today, and I'll hand back over. Thank you.
I'll adjust my mic. Right. Thank you, everybody. We are running a little bit behind time, but we are due a comfort break. So I know that there are refreshments outside still for you. So if you'd like some tea and coffees, if you'd like to help yourself and take a little comfort break and come straight back, then we'll get on with the rest of the evening. Okay. So without further ado, I'll hand you back to Celia to introduce our next speaker.
Welcome back, everyone. Anthony Davies, I'm really, really vexed with you, you know. I'm just looking around the table and he's just talked to us about all these mouth-watering patties. And I'm seeing sandwiches. Don't try this kind of thing next time, oh, I did tell you. You know I'm Nigerian, right? Okay, no try this kind of thing again. Oh. Anyway, I can't speak Patois, but I can speak Pidgin English, Nigeria, yeah? Right, okay. We are going to have our next speaker. Our first speaker, our second speakers were brilliant. And if you're listening very, very attentively, there is a theme coming out from there. In my first degree, which is English and Literature, one of our modules was about coding. So you read a context, you code it. That coding gives you the theme. So I was coding 2 of your talks, and the theme coming out from there is challenges, adaptation, scaling up, resilience, obviously. So for the young businesses in the room, please take this home, because you're going to need all of this to be able to scale up, you know. The first Davies, Mr. Davies talked about falling down 7 times, rising again. It might sound biblical, but you actually need it in the day-to-day business struggles. So take that and be coding as well. We don't have computers to code, but you can code manually as well. So be coding so that those themes coming out from individual talks, you can then take them all together and do something with it. Coming to the conference is not about longing for parties. It's about growing the businesses as well. Right, okay. Byron Dixon, OBE. I do know about another OBE in the room, which is our deputy mayor, but I'm so happy that there is another OBE in the room, and that's Byron Dixon, the founder and CEO of MicroFresh. Started the global antibacterial brand over 15 years ago. Today, the brand is used as an added value by over 50 retailers, such as Emirates, Next, John Lewis and Partners. It now serves as the go-to brand for innovation-conscious retailers that want to incorporate freshness into their products. When I read this, I was thinking, I'm going to tell Anthony Davies, when Asda tells you rubbish, tell them that I've got this another product, right? And this makes the products very, very fresh. So don't worry about your 7 days or 10 days ultimatum. You can have it for 3 months. In Nigeria, when you go to buy food, they tell you the expiry date is 10th of October. Then you turn it around, flip it round, then you see it's actually expired like 4 months ago. So yeah, we need to use that tactics for Asta. I hope nobody heard me. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brian Dixon, OBE. A round of applause.
Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me? Yes. For the sharp-eared amongst you, I'm not a Davis. I'm not even a Clark. Where's Kevin? He introduced me as Byron Clark earlier. I'm not a Clark. My name's Byron Dixon. Yeah, quite right. I do have an OBE, which I'll go into later. So what I'm going to do today is go through the story of Microfresh, how I got to be here, doing what I'm doing today. And thank you for inviting me to be here this evening. So the story of Microfresh is, and this is interactive, so I'm going to check you're all awake because I've got the graveyard slot. You've all had some food, you've listened to others great speakers, so I'm going to make sure you're all awake. So I'm going to be asking questions. And you can't hide because I'll find you and I'll pick you out in the room. Okay, so my story. My parents came from Jamaica in the late 60s to the UK. My dad was a builder, my mum was a healthcare worker. And like a lot of the people may know or may have been around in the 60s, England wasn't the place that it is today. We were living in West London. So if we were living in West London, can anybody have a guess which football team I support? Who said that? Who said that? Who said Chelsea?
Chelsea.
Top man. So I was a Chelsea fan. And then my dad didn't like the weather, didn't like the people, didn't like the employees. He went back to Jamaica. My mum's brother lived in Leicester. So my mum now had 5 kids, and she came and see her brother in Leicester, and she moved to Leicester. So the most painful bit of growing up was being a Chelsea fan growing up in Leicester, where everybody hates Chelsea. And sorry? Full stop. Yeah, I can take that. So we grew up on a council estate in Leicester, and with all the troubles that brought, as you can probably imagine, in the 70s and the 80s, I'd really willing to go into all that detail today. So as a kid, I was the kid at school that was always naughty. I wasn't horrible. I didn't get into fights or anything like that, but I was the one that was always making everybody laugh, which was the teacher's worst nightmare. We got a new headmistress. She came from a school called Rushy Mead, and my cousin was the head boy at Rushy Mead. So when we had this new headmistress, I worked out that if I could sweet talk her, I could get out of getting in trouble. So we had this conversation very early on, and she told me later on that she realised I was just bored. She said, all the teachers said, we've got this kid called Byron, he's just so naughty, he just can't keep still, and he's always like this, he's got this attention span of a gnat. And Miss Warren, as we knew her then, she said, I worked out that you were just bored, so I said to the teachers, push him into chemistry. So that's what they did without me knowing, and I did chemistry, and I absolutely loved it. And I thought, why would you want to do a subject like history or geography or English when you've got a subject here you can burn things? You know, you can blow, I didn't say a bad word then, you can blow stuff up. You know, I thought, this is great. You can get electrodes and go tss. And I thought, this is me all over. So I did what was then O-levels, and when I got my results, my chemistry teacher, she read all the results out to the class, and mine was the last one. The reason was I got the best result in school, which was a complete shock to everybody. So I got an O-level grade A, thank you, and I couldn't do anything else. I could do chemistry. I scanned through maths and physics to make sure that the 3 went together, but I couldn't do anything else. I did my A-levels, and a similar thing happened at A-level. I got an A again. And to my lecturers, they thought, how's this kid doing it? He's playing football all the time. He's messing around. He can't keep still. He's always, being a pain in the backside. Can I say that? But then, of course, came to university, and back then, I didn't go to university because I couldn't afford it. And you know, not everybody went to university like they do now. So I went and got a job. So I wrote off to ICI, spoke to Zeneca, and I said, I want a job. I've got an A-level grade A in chemistry. And they said, okay. The nearest one to me was in Loughborough. I went off to Loughborough, and I got the job. And what I didn't realise about getting the job, there's a theme, by the way, that's going to come up in this story, is I got this job, and then I realised that I started at 8 o'clock in Loughborough, which is only 12 miles from Leicester, but I didn't have a car. So I had to get up and get a bus to the station, and then get the train, and then walk. So I had to be up at 5:30 in the morning. I used to get home at about 7:15. But all my hoodlum mates that I had at the time, I lost them all because I was too tired to cause trouble in the evenings. And that's kind of the story of what got me out of the cycle, which a lot of our kids, if you like, are in today. I understand totally how easy it is to get into a cycle of being in a gang, being with your mates, hanging around, stealing, robbing, breaking things. But what got me out of that was, A, I was too tired and I was getting home too late. So that made a big difference to me, and I left all those guys behind. So I worked for... And the bit I missed out as well is this division of Zeneca was Zeneca Leather Finishes. They supplied tanneries. So I grew up learning all about tanneries and shoe factories. And I loved this job. It was great. I loved it. I got to meet loads of people. I got to get some free shoes, some really cool shoes. I got some Pierre Cardin shoes, and I went out and met some ladies with my Pierre Cardin shoes. Still causing trouble. But I absolutely loved it. And then after about 10 years, I got itchy feet. So I got headhunted by Echo. Does anybody know where Echo is? Who Echo are? Echo's a shoe company. So where are they based? Sorry? No? I'll give you a clue. I had an interview in London, in Mayfair, and they wrote to me and said, you've got the job. When do you start? And I started on Valentine's Day, and they said to me, do you want to fly from East Midlands or Heathrow? Denmark. And I was like, hey? But you know what? Try anything once. So I went off to Denmark, and I landed in Denmark. I think they were more shocked than I was, if anyone's ever been to Denmark. But you know what, guys? I absolutely loved it. I loved the job. I loved the country. And what I'd learned, and this is something that when I came back I found really difficult, tough to handle, is in most countries they don't see colour. They just don't. And I was so used to being in Leicester seeing colour every day. And in Denmark, nobody batted an eyelid. In fact, the only time something happened was when I was walking down the street and there was a lady with a little boy, he was probably about 3, and he said in Danish, Mum, the Danish translation is not a very clever word when you translate it back into English. But he didn't mean it that way. He just meant, Mum, there's a black person. So I was at Echo. For 4 years, I looked after all the finishing for Echo. They have factories in Portugal, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Italy, China. So I went to all these countries in 4 years. It was like a whistle-stop tour of the world and cultures and languages. So I learned to speak Danish, which is really useful if you're ever going to live in Greenland. And Denmark, of course. I could understand Swedish, Norwegian, German, and because of the time I spent in Portugal, I learned Portuguese, French, Spanish, Italian. Any Danish speakers in the house? Didn't think so. So Denmark's a lovely country. It's expensive, and it's cold, and it's dark. And after 4 years, I just said, I've got to go home. But the owner of Echo said to me, Byron, you're good with people. I can do chemistry and I can do people, and I can't do anything else, hence my, it's another bad word then, hence my rubbish results at geography, history, English. So he said to me, when you go back, I'm going to advise you to start your own business, because this is a guy that's built a $28 million company then, 20 years ago. So I thought, well, if he's saying it, he must know what he's talking about. So I came back and I started my own business, a leather chemicals business, pretty boring. But then I also decided to work on a project because Echo used to have a problem. When shoes are made in Asia and shipped to the West, they would go mouldy because of all the moisture in Asia. So there was always a big legal fight. So I thought, can I formulate something that stops mould growing on leather? And I did. And that's Microfresh. I keep forgetting that we've got slides here to go through, but that doesn't matter. So I formulated Microfresh to stop mould growing on leather, which is pretty boring. And nobody took it up. This is 2006. So about a year later, we got a call because there was a scandal. And what one of my clients was telling me was there's about to be a huge lawsuit because leather sofas are burning people's skin. Some of you may or may not remember. And when they did the test, they found out it was the anti-mold treatment they were using in China that was burning the skin. So the retailers, there is another theme to this story, which is Johnny on the spot, which I'll go into in a minute as well. So the retailers said, where's that guy with his product that came around that we weren't interested in? Let's get him back because we need to talk to him about his product. Is it irritant? No. Is it British? Yes. Are you a chemist? Yes. Can you make enough of it? I said, yeah, but although we couldn't, I thought, saw that. Cross that bridge when we come to it. And that's what we did. We started making it in bulk and we shipped it to China. We opened an office in China. So I got off a plane in China. People talk about things, regrets that you have in business. I didn't know how to open an overseas office, so I put an advert in the South China Post, which is in Hong Kong. And I said, I'm available on these 2 days for interviews. I flew to Hong Kong to a hotel and I just interviewed random people. And we opened a China office with a random person that turned out to be not so clever, but it meant that we had a presence in China. And we had to open it just before the Olympics because the way that I was advised that it works in Southeast Asia is in a country like China, once it's in the public domain, everybody wants to be there. So they said, if you open it now, you'll avoid all the taxes and all the costs because nobody wants to be in China. Once the Olympics goes live around the world, China will be a very popular place. So we opened in 2007 in China, and that worked really well, and we grew as a business from 2007 right through to 2010. And then there was another break in the growth of our business in that in 2010, I play football, still play football. You know, you spoke about looking after yourself and keeping fit. Well, I'm 78, but, you know, wearing well. But in the football, I played football for Leicester University, and some of the people in the team said, oh, if it stops mould, which is a fungus, it should stop bacteria. And I was like, what's bacteria? E. coli, salmonella, listeria, but also odours, which I didn't realise. So when we sweat, bacteria breaks down the sweat and gives off gases. That's body odour, BO. So we tested it and we thought, wow, we now have a product that stops shoes from smelling. So we went back around, all our retail clients said, hey, put this in your shoes, shoes won't smell. They said, yeah, right, let's try it. Did a 30-pair trial, all the right feet were microfreshed, all the left feet were unmicrofreshed. After 6 weeks, they came back and the right feet were perfect. And so next ran a range of footwear, range of shoes in 2011 called Microfresh, and they sold like hotcakes, and it's snowballed ever since. So, thank you. Sorry? We've been on him this week. Yeah. So that ran nicely for about 3 or 4 years. Everybody followed suit. Back to school shoes. Big drain on the mum's pocket or parents' pocket. We've probably got, if you've got school-age kids in the room, anybody, or grandkids, looking at some of you, maybe even great-grandkids. You buy a pair of shoes, there's a little swing tag on that says, contains microfresh to prevent odours. The 2 reasons that school shoes are thrown away, they grow out of them or they start to smell, and that's Microfresh, based in Leicester. In 2014, John Lewis came to us and said, we'd like to run a range of bedding. They did all the trials on skin contact. They ran a range of baby baby and nursery bedding in 2015, really successful again, and that gave us the credibility because people then started looking at Microfresh and saying, wow, this product, it stops odours, it's safe to use, it's certified next to a baby's skin, the most precious thing in our lives. Where is it come from? Who is it? Who runs this company? Who started it? And when we approached people after that, they said, oh, are you the UK office of Microfresh? We thought we were American. We said, no, we're Microfresh. We're Leicester-based. And that's the story. So we've grown since then. Just to summarise this slide, last year, Emirates launched a range of quilts and pillows in First and Business. And in 2018, I got a letter completely out of the blue from the Palace saying, you've been recognised for an OBE for industry and innovation. So I went down to meet the Queen, not the Queen, Prince William, with Mum and my 2 nieces and my wife, and Mum was just over the moon. And I did say to her, because you get the letter a month in advance, and I said, don't tell anybody. She says, no, 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 no. So 4 days later, my cousin from Jamaica, Byron, me, you have a heart. What the hell? Yes, sir, no. Hey? Your mother tell me. Mum, they have phones these days, Mum. Yeah, because she thought, I can tell people in Jamaica, there wasn't. But you absolutely are not allowed, until the Queen's birthday, you're not allowed to tell anybody. So that was a massive day for us, and for me, and for my family, and for the business, of course. So that's kind of where we've grown to today. Last January, we heard from our China office that there's a nasty disease called COVID-19. And they said, it's going to come to England. And they said, there's going to be lockdown. We said, what's lockdown? You won't be allowed out. We're like, don't be stupid. You're crazy. And we all know what happened. So the pandemic came, which is terrible and still is terrible. It's an awful pandemic. But again, what it's done for our business is people have said, hold on a minute. Who touched that last? Who's bumping hands? Who wore that? So the whole world is now conscious about what they touch, who's touched what germs are around, what diseases, what bacteria. We've been tested for COVID. We did a project with De Montfort University in Leicester. How long does COVID last on textiles? So they found out it lasts up to 3 days, which is quite scary. And then they test it alongside Microfresh fabrics, and it goes down to 30 minutes. So you can see the potential for that. And, I have the shortest attention span in the world, hence the chemistry, hence my phone's in black and white. Some people have noticed my phone has got a black and white screen. That's deliberate. It's been like that for 5 years because I actually can't concentrate. So that's the way of stopping me from looking at my phone. And as a business, we have a universal product that can go into anything, textiles, leather, plastics, wood. It's certified. So I did the Goldman Sachs program, which I was massively inspired to do by this gentleman here, Kevin Davis. I didn't know Kevin. Somebody said to me, Byron, your business is growing. This is 2014. There's a program that's made for you, the Goldman Sachs Business Growth Program. I thought, Goldman Sachs, I'm going to paraphrase here, don't get offended. I thought that's for rich white people. Then I got a brochure and I thought, there's a guy who looks like me. And that was Kevin. And I thought, I'm going to go for this. And it was the best thing that happened in my business. This gentleman here was asking me about the program earlier. It's the best thing because it's taught us to strategize. For the financial people, I met you earlier, PwC. We were growing as a business. I can do chemistry and nothing else. I thought, why are we running out of money? Didn't understand it. Somebody said, you're funding the growth yourself. I learned all these things through Goldman, so if there's anybody here thinking of that program, you should definitely find it and go on it. So that's the story of Microfresh. We've just opened in Spain, Mexico and Colombia, so we've now got 14 offices around the world. And hopefully, if you go into your local Next or any Next store, you'll see our name in store because they say this store is protected by Microfresh. And sometimes people have called us and said, somebody's copied your brand. I said, no, that's us. So that's the story of Microfresh. Thanks for listening. And I've got my passport out. Come from the East Midlands to the West Midlands, but thank you, everyone.
Oh, my days. I need need some microfresh in my life. I do. Trust me. Right, okay. Oh.
Sorry, just pass this around.
Have you got one for everybody?
No.
Okay.
That's something we did last year. The Microfresh Challenge, Beat the Sweat.
It smells very nice from here.
It's actually not been washed since November.
Okay.
I'll stand here.
Thank you so much, Byron OBE. I must put that OBE there because it's no mean feat. I hope all of you are still coding, you know. The adaptation theme is still coming through. The resilience theme is still coming through. Scalability is still coming through. You heard about his travels to China and whatnot, and you've heard about Davis's opening in the town centers and all of that. A new theme that's just come through for me from Byron's talk is travel. So as a business, you have to be open as well because the opportunities might be intercontinental, so you're going to have to travel. So, and that falls in line with the globalization thing I was talking about earlier. Our next speaker, well, there's something I just noticed. Each and every one of these speakers are trying to outdo each other, right? We've been clapping like there's no tomorrow. We might as well have gone to the Panthers. So I want to outdo all of them. Anybody knows the scientific name for bacteria? Anyone? Someone say staphylococcus. We need some, anybody knows? Scientific name for bacteria is bacteria. I wanted to outdo them, but yeah, when I Googled it, that was what came up. Anyway, I have the pleasure of, and this is really good, we have a woman coming to the stage. We have a woman coming to the stage. I was feeling like I'm back in Africa where only men are allowed to come to the stage. And they hated me because they said, I must come to that stage, oh, you know? You guys bring in all these men. You guys are not seeing the women in the room. So I'm glad we now finally have a woman. And is a woman of timber and caliber. It's Jennifer Samuels, FSD, ABUS, BA Hons, HR and Marketing, CEO Faringe and Beauty, and WBBN Director. Established since 2005, Faringe Hair and Beauty Director has more to meet the eye in terms of her vast experience and expertise in the industry. From managing and training staff in her business, Jennifer is frequently requested to go further afield to deliver in salon education. So that travel theme is coming through already. Locally and across the region, she's been as far as Africa. We want to know the countries you've been to. Education, skills, and knowledge are key factors for Jennifer, along with motivation and the right opportunity to meet any goals set out. Her years in teaching from the early 2000s at Parkfields High School, then lecturing at the City of Wolverhampton College, have allowed her to give back by sharing her testimonials about the journey as a business owner. And ladies and gentlemen, can we welcome Jennifer Samuels.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, fine, thank you. It's nice to be here today to... It's nice to be here today to share my experiences with you. It's not going to be anything elaborate like PowerPoint presentations and cash flow forecasts and all the rest of it. It's basically a down-to-earth testimonial of my journey and my testimonial of resilience in business. As Celia's already said, I was once working in a salon as an employee, and then I bridged over onto freelancing. After I had my second daughter, I was approached by Parkfield High School to pilot the first national vocational qualification for children in schools. I then took on board the opportunity to go into the school and start hairdressing for students that fall out of classes that they found challenging, because not everybody is academic. So the vocational route was an option for students that were skipping school, not concentrating in lesson, and various other problems. And literally, when I went into Parkfield High School, I literally had a classroom to deliver hairdressing. Desks, chairs, nothing else. So I had to devise my own scheme of work, pull together a plan that we could actually get some practical work done in the classroom. And every year we tapped into the resources. I mean, at one point we had to use the staff bathroom to do some shampooing because we had nothing. We started with nothing, and then by the fourth year, we had 3 hairdressing groups which we were delivering. We'd moved downstairs to a bigger room. They then allowed me to put together a small business plan that contained a budget for everything we needed to deliver the qualification like a commercial salon environment. I did that, and then we sought to get centre approval. Now, to get centre approval, you have to make sure that all the resources are there that mimic the realistic salon environment, and I had to do that with literally nothing. Unbeknown to me, I was again headhunted by the City of Wolverhampton College to launch the first African Caribbean type qualification. Now, people that had done hairdressing before me could do Afro hair, could deal with all the hair types, all the products, but there was no formal qualification to recognise that section of the industry. So I was called in to work at Wolverhampton College to deliver the first industry recognised African Caribbean qualification. That was a success. It was quite taxing because at that point courses were funded and everybody wanted to jump on the course to get A, the qualification, and B, it was all paid for you. You'd get your educational means allowance. So everybody wanted something for nothing, basically. But we had to sift the wheat from the tares, for want of a better way of saying it, to make sure that at the end of that academic year, we had achievements, we had retention, we had something to show that this course actually worked and we could continue to do it year after year. We started off with 2 groups, and then by the end of, I'd say, 2 or 3 years, we had 4 groups, level 1, level 2, level 3, and we also had like a specialism group for just dealing with the students that did the European qualification but wanted to add on the 2 African Caribbean type units, which was relaxers and braiding. So we diversified with that widely, and I was quite honoured actually to be called to do that course. I was working on both sites for a while until I felt I had to do my own project. I had to start my own venture, and I think setting up the salon at Parkfield High School gave me the confidence to do my own thing. I remember submitting my resignation to the head teacher at Parkfield High School, and he was gutted. He says, "Well, I hope it works for you, but you know, your bread's buttered here," kind of thing, trying to intimidate me to stay. But I took the opportunity to start my own business. I put together a business plan through the help of Sam Drew when he was at Business Link. And I told my manager at Wolverhampton College that I wanted to do that and I was going to go part-time. And then I started my pursuit to start my own venture. The Fringe startup was in 2005. What I had to do was show my business manager at Barclays that I could sustain a regular income. So through my freelancing, I opened up a business account and I regularly put funds into that account to show that there was a steady income going in. And when she saw my business plan, she then awarded me a grant for £5,000. Now at that time, that was a lot of money for me because I had nothing. I had nothing, so I was quite pleased to get the £5,000. So in December of 2005, Fringe officially opened its doors to the public, and my mission was to be the equivalent to the Tony and Guys, the Francesco groups, all those high-end salons that are out there for the European clientele. I wanted that for the African Caribbean market. We needed that too. Not only that, my research at university showed me that apart from beauty, the African Caribbean section of the market were the largest spending clientele in the industry. So not only do we spend money on our hair, the products, our hair is more fragile, so we go more frequently. So the hair services, the frequency, and the products that we use contributed a large portion of the economy in terms of the hair and beauty sector. So we were the highest spenders in that category. I wanted my salon to be cutting edge, and with my educational background, I had the picking of all the upcoming talent in the colleges. So I could sift out those who were serious, not only talented, but serious to come and work with me. The theme tonight is about resilience. So my journey that I'm going to take you on, it's going to be at points sometimes quite down, but this is all part of why we're here. We're here to learn from the good and the bad and how to be resilient no matter what comes your way. Because I think if you're going to set a business plan, you can't expect for it to be plain sailing all the time. I often tell my employees, you see all the cash coming in, you see the money going in the till, you see ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. But what you don't see is when I go home at night and I've got to get on my laptop, go through my emails, sort out my cash flow, make sure the bills are paid, make sure you have your money in your account because you've got your families as well, and just make sure everything is working well. It's not just about money coming in, there's more to it than that. So my first storm in 2008 was what I thought was a close-knit team. There were obviously individuals in that team that had other agendas, and they didn't have the best interest of the business at heart. I had to navigate through this storm strategically, and my laissez-faire leadership style had to be switched to an autocratic one. Why? A member of the team was actually stealing from me. They were poaching clients, taking products, and I had to deal with this in a professional manner. I had to detach my emotions from that. I had to take legal advice so that I could approach this situation without being taken to a tribunal. So I had to suspend that employee on full pay while I carried out my investigations. And David, you probably know the story I'm talking about. So when I thought everything was good, when I put my heart and soul into something and I thought I had a team of individuals behind me, there was one demon in the midst. And I'd never dealt with anything like that before because I'm quite laid back, I'm quite easygoing. But then I had to deal with this so that A, I could protect my business, B, I could set a precedent so that it wouldn't happen again, and C, I wanted it to stop. So when I suspended that individual, at the same time, my family were all planning to go to visit my mum and my father in Jamaica. And I decided not to go because I thought, I've got a business to run here, so I can't just jump on a plane and swan off to Jamaica while I've got a business to run. So I declined the option to go. But when I dealt with this situation and I managed to carry out the disciplinary and eventually I had to let that employee go, I took a step back and I thought, do you know something? My business has got to, if I'm the business, then whether I'm there or not, you know, whether I'm there or not, it should survive. It should survive. If it's a viable business, it should survive. If I have a good business model, it should survive. So I looked online and I thought, you know, my four brothers are out there, my mom, my dad's out there. I don't know when we're going to get this opportunity again. I'm going to Jamaica. And I looked online and said, Lord, I need some cheap flights. And believe you me, I found flights for £189 to Jamaica. So I boarded the flight and I went over to Jamaica with my family. And unbeknown to me, that would have been the last time we would have all been to Jamaica as a family, because the second time we went as a family was to bury my dad. So, being resilient in the face of confrontation, it takes wisdom. You can't just go off on a whim. You can't let your emotions rule your head. You have to think strategically. You have to think practically. You have to ride the tide, for want of a better way of saying it. When I came back, everything was fine. The remaining staff carried on with the business and there was no concerns. Storm number 2. Still lecturing part-time, running a business, finishing my final year at Wolverhampton Uni, being a wife and a mother. I had every right to feel overwhelmed at times. Still, I continued to make my business that I'd invested so much in work. I had a good relationship with my landlord. He made me the key holder for the premises above me, which consisted of the first and second floors. The adjacent corridor to those 2 floors was where our meters were located. So my meter was in there, first floor meter was in there, and second floor meter was in there. Why did I not become suspicious when a new business came along, storage business, and was setting up above me? I was soon to realise that when a team member alerted me that police had turned up outside the door as well as sniffer dogs. While I would exchange friendly nods with this neighbour, unbeknown to me, he had tapped into my meter. He had built a cannabis farm. There were reflective lamps, there were timers, there was water supplies, everything. And the police were at my door thinking I had something to do with it. I had to think fast. So the first thing I did was to inform my landlord, and he came and he supported me through it all. The second thing I had to do was to present my lease to show that I had nothing to do with what was going on upstairs. I had to communicate with my utility supplier, who was British Gas at the time. They didn't want to know. They just thought, well, you're the meter owner and you've taken this amount of money, you've got to pay. I pay by direct debit normally, but when that meter theft was carrying on, my bill ran up to £3,700. So I had to learn fast. I learned to do something called an indemnity claim, which I'd never done before. So the indemnity claim eventually drew the money back out of that person, from the British Gas, and back into my account. Eventually, the police got involved and I had to give a statement, and thankfully that tenant was evicted and everything was fine. I managed to finish university that year with a 2-1 and we did really well. There was no concerns at the end of that. So the hurricane, another one. As a business owner, this situation was very different. I could see things happening, this is the coronavirus, in a distance, and I could see it happening globally and getting closer quite quickly. I could also feel the pull on the client's behaviour as it got closer, but did not know how much of an impact it would make on us until it was officially announced. Lockdown March 2019 had us pulling out all the stops to create business survival strategies. We had to bring all the future client bookings forward. We had to order stock so that we wouldn't run out. We worked late to get all the clients in. People were panicking. And even find time to stock up on things for ourselves, not toilet roll. Patties, I forgot about them. I'd already decided by the time I shut the doors, I'll be bringing home most of the products with me, and the key items such as wigs, hair accessories, and things that I could use if I needed to. I quickly figured out how to use Zoom to communicate with my staff, and I could brief them on updates as and when the government was sharing them with us, because I did not know what to do. I just had to trust God, and whatever information I got, I just disseminated it amongst the team. I went into my business account and I shaved down most of my direct debits, and I set up standing orders at capped amounts. Again, I communicated with my utility suppliers who understood what the businesses were going through, so they were quite accommodating with the bills. By this time, everybody was scared to do anything due to the risk of catching the virus. Friends and family members were falling sick, left, right, and centre. The daily news of numerous lives lost, making it impossible to find normality in the turbulence of things, was happening globally. I spoke to God and said, Lord, I can't say I haven't had a good run in my business, and I'm very grateful for what you've given me so far. But wherever this takes me, I'm going to trust you. You've not failed me so far, and I know you won't fail me in the future. Naturally, in difficult situations, I keep my head down and figure things out for myself. But this time, I just did not know what to do. In the business environment, we know that after a downturn, eventually comes an upturn. So I remained positive, and I didn't know how far down this situation was going to take us. So I just had to get creative in a way that would work out well in a volatile climate. The questions I kept asking myself was, how would I maintain customer relationships? How could I retain my existing clients and services and products? How could I generate some more income? Most of the clients wanted my expertise, but I couldn't offer my services to them. So when I decided to create my own fringe prescriptives home care packs, I drove back to the salon to collect the majority of products and accessories and ordered bubble wrap, luxury packaging, miniature containers, hundreds of makeup brushes, dozens of loyalty cards. Every client that contacted me would be given an in-depth consultation on the telephone. That would result in me prescribing miniaturized packs for them to be received through the post. I'd take their queries, I would prescribe the prescription, I would put it through the post, bubble wrap it, record the delivery, and they'd get it on their doorstep. And that went on and on throughout the delivery. And it grew so much that I even had to put postcode areas and give them to the staff. You manage WV3, I'll manage WV4. It was just crazy. It was two reasons really. It was to generate an income, and also we didn't want clients to return with scenarios that had to be just cut off and started again. They'd spent the whole year, invested money and time into maintain their hair, then 6 months of nothing. We knew we were going to be facing nightmares if I didn't do this. I even had clients approaching me saying, Jen, please just come to my house and do my hair. I need you to do my hair. I said, look, you have 10,000 pounds? The conversation ended there and then. Mr. Sam Darrell was checking in on me to see how I was doing. He gave me a random call, and he was checking to see, Jennifer, how are you coping? How are you coping? And then he updated me on the grants that were available. I searched online, and Wolverhampton Council, they were brilliant. You could log on to the website, and you could sift through everything. You could put in your category, and the category that you landed in as a business had an amount set aside for you, and it came just at the right time. It was like a lifeboat in a storm. It really was. I'm grateful for that. To prove it was God, the prescriptive boxes lasted me right up until the time that the lockdown was lifted. My last package went out and the lockdown was lifted. The grant was, I was eligible for, covered all my expenses. It helped me keep the place out to be COVID safe. I had to make two of the sections redundant because of social distancing. But still, when we opened the doors, there were just floods of clients coming in, and it was crazy because between every person, we had to sanitize the sections. In fact, before we started them, we had to make sure we checked their temperature, ask them all the questions, fill out the form, the data. Then when they came in, we did the service, we sanitized the chairs afterwards. So every service, we had to add on about 20 to 30 minutes on top of the service. So we had to put the prices up to accommodate the downfall in income, and we didn't suffer any loss at all. In fact, we were more profitable. We were more profitable post-COVID. So to anybody that wants to set up business, I would say that business isn't plain sailing all the time. If you've got a business plan, you've got to make sure that you can use it and you can tweak it. You've got a plan B in the business plan, be able to adapt in difficult situations, and just be resilient. You know, if you've put your time and your effort into your venture, why would you want to just step back and let it go? Many businesses took the grants and they just shut shop and took the money and did their own thing. Lots of people took out business loans and folded their business and bought properties. You know, their passion weren't in their business, they were thinking short term. But if you're going to set up a business, make sure that you can prepare yourself to face these difficult situations, because nobody saw COVID coming. Nobody saw it coming. Many businesses aren't here today. But if you were serious in business, you will make it work. I learned how to sprint back when attacked. I learned how to thrive and be resourceful when tough times come. And ultimately, like I said, having a plan B for making things work. These are the qualities that I would encourage anybody to ask themselves honestly before they even start on the business journey. And over the years, I've been blessed to be approached by a company called Avalon. Now, Avalon Industries, they've got a big network in Chicago. That's where their headquarters are. And they've got one in the UK, in Tipton, a bit of a contrast. But they cover the whole of Europe. Now I've been approached to work for them, so I've travelled to places like the Netherlands, Paris, Belgium. I've been as far as Nigeria representing the brand. I've even been blessed to go to Rio de Janeiro to, again, share my expertise and my experience. That's not to say I'm any superstar or anything, but I've been given a blessed opportunity to educate others and to share what I've learned. And I'm here today just to say, you know, if you can see on paper, if your business plan can work on paper, go for it. Make it work. And when the hard times come, be resilient. Don't give up. Just make your plan work. Okay, thank you.
That is really, really good. I will be biased. Sorry. Okay. I will be biased, obviously, because it has to do with hair. Jennifer is so right there. African hair takes a lot of money, a lot of maintenance. You can't just wake up and wash it and comb it. It doesn't work like that. You're either buying attachments, wigs. My daughter's hair, you won't believe how much you need to put into the hair to even get it looking presentable. So Jennifer is so bang on the money there when you talk about the spending capacity we have in the black community. So Uncle Sam, you have a homework. You have a homework because we need to start to plug that gap in the financial institution in the black community. It's all right to say to the council to do X, Y, Z for us, but we're losing so much money because of lack of digitization. You know, she's the first African hair being taught in the universities, and who would have thought that? That's late coming, you know? And we lose a lot of money doing things just the way we want it, you know? Just, you can knock on an African woman's door and she'll plait your hair. Plait your hair, that money doesn't go into the system, that money is not regurgitated out, that money doesn't do anything. You know, the childcare business in England is huge. In Africa, we do childcare every single minute. No money comes from that industry. So I'm happy that the next speaker coming is going to talk about tech. We need to really sit down and look at the ways we can scale up all these industries in the black community, losing money every single day. Our next speaker is Kino Shong. I hope I've pronounced your name properly. President and CEO founder of INOA and former cognitive strategist at IBM. Born and educated in the black country, and his INOA construction and property tech startup have recently won investment and support from Google. He has seen the potential, they have seen his potential in building new digital experiences for tradespeople, property developers, and homeowners. For tradespeople, INOA is the first building and renovation platform where they can build their portfolios, quote, and manage all their jobs under one roof completely free. I'm actually looking forward to hearing from Mr. Shang. Mr. Shang, the stage is yours.
We've had many great presentations, and again, thank you very much, Mr. Davis, one of the very Mr. Davises, for my invite today. As you probably know from the earlier presentation, a bit about myself and a bit about Google and a bit about IBM and also INOA. So we'll be running through that, and if you probably look to the left and if you probably look to the right and probably if you look down, you're probably in a better position to give this presentation than myself. But either way, I'm very humbled to be here with everybody in the room. And as mentioned before and as mentioned to Kevin, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a question. And the first question that I've got hopefully links to what this is all about. And if we click to the next one, it is, what do you picture when you think about resilient small businesses? So what is it? What are you thinking of? Kevin? I put you on the spot. Sorry about that.
I'm thinking about
open after COVID?
Amazing. I'll jump to the other. Okay, Sam? Bouncing back. Okay, the other Mr. Davis. We're going to look at, I just want to see a picture of anything, just an image. If it's an old shirt that you've had that sort of lasts you throughout, the ages, whether it's an animal, whether it's a car. What are you thinking of in terms of just a picture, just an image?
Yeah, I think continuation and able to adapt.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And as mentioned, I'm from the tech sector, so if you click on the next slide, this is what I think about, sadly, cockroaches. And in technology, cockroaches are mentioned time and time again. Cockroaches, most famously Airbnb, just before they received investment from Y Combinator, they were referred to as a cockroach. Why? Because for some reason, if we click onto the next slide, if we click onto the next one again, just 3 times, there we go. You can step on them, you can suck them up with a vacuum, you can pretty much deprive them of food and water, and if we click on the next one, they somehow survive, and hopefully as a part of this presentation, it's not only surviving, but it's more so thriving. And what we've seen in the tech sector is companies really, really sort of capitalizing based on their economies of scale and really have sort of expanded out from where they were before COVID started. And some of those, again, will sort of refer as an underlying theme of Google and, when we think about Amazon, how they've been able to capitalize on their logistics chain. It's been great to see small businesses also tapping into technology and optimizing their own resources. And it's been great to hear from different small businesses today about the different creative ways that they've been able to continue their operation to make sure there wasn't a continued permanent halt. And if we go to the next, okay, actually this is all right here. The theme, instead of talking about the biology of cockroaches and rodents and all these different things, I do think it's probably important that we bring it back on theme about resilient small businesses to some degree. And if we click onto the next slide here, you'll probably think, and as mentioned, I said, you guys could probably be in a better position to talk about this, but these are the 3 things that you could think of. If we go back, thank you. The process of adapting is something that's probably really, really useful and has great theory and we can talk about it. And, from a tech side, we can talk about the transformative insights for digital navigation and application. And, for some people here today, they may want to learn and maybe hear some more about methods of overcoming adversity. And given the time and given that we're overrunning a little bit, I don't have any of that to offer you, so I'm very, very sorry. But what I do have to offer is my story, and hopefully you can derive some sort of wisdom or some knowledge or some level of information that you find useful and write it down. So, as Kevin mentioned earlier on, unlike him, I am from Wolverhampton, more specifically New Cross. So, I'm sure if any of you were born in Wolverhampton, were born at the same hospital, because there we go, the other Davises. I don't really know any of the hospitals in Wolverhampton other than that. So, yeah, if we move on to the next slide. I heard about Warsaw Studio School from Kevin in terms of what his vision was, what his mission was, and also from hearing about the heart of what he was trying to do. And as mentioned, I've known Kevin for a while, and he's fortunately one of my advisors in the company that I run. And, if we go back, yeah, we're going to slow down a little bit. If we go back one more. Great. Back one more. There we go. And what I heard about in terms of how he wanted to make education work for every single student. And at that point, there was sort of a decision for me to make. Do I want to stay at the sort of grammar school that I have at the moment, which you mentioned was King Edward's, or do I want to move over to a brand new school with no cohort? That is the first time it's been created. Even though this is a newer design, before there was some beautiful sort of CAD walkthroughs, and I remember I went in on one of the early days, and I could still smell the paint drying on the wall. So I was thinking, where are all the rest of the teachers? There was only Dan at the time, and he was amazing in terms of saying, again, what they were planning on doing with the school. And what I looked at is there an opportunity here for me, and is there an opportunity for others, and do I want to be a part of this? And it very quickly, from hearing about what the vision and the mission was, it was a very clear yes. There was a clear yes in terms of the opportunity that was there, and the fact that it wasn't just an opportunity where we're saying we're going to create a new school and there's going to be X many students and we're looking to do this, this, and this. It was a very real opportunity, and there was very real access, and I wanted to be a part of that. if we click onto the next slide, again, we sort of bumped through this. I did have the old sort of image of Kevin that is sort of lurking online that he doesn't like to show. So I did put in some nicer ones there. And if you move to the next one, I mean, it was there earlier, but I did take it out. The main thing that I really loved at that school and becoming, the first sort of head boy and first student chairman was a massive honour, is being able to also meet with different executives at a much higher level than I thought, I'd ever be able to sort of speak and engage with. But one of the things that I love to do is plan, prepare, and whenever I plan and prepare, I feel confident enough that I can share it, maybe to a degree where I probably shouldn't be sharing it to people that know more than I. In this it says, and I'm sure the font's too small for you to read, but it says, budding young entrepreneur. And that was me basically wanting to be an entrepreneur, but also not wanting the cash flow issues. So it was basically an entrepreneur in a company with massive and billions amounts of pounds where I could just do and run with my own impact without having to worry about any of the resource issues or the cash flow issues. So I was sort of trying to cheat the whole route there as an SMB. And then it was a case of me explaining my ideas to Stephen Leonard, who at that point was the chairman of IBM and the CEO. So again, he's looking at me there a bit like a proud dad as I'm sort of telling him about all my ideas for the future, about the job types for the future and how I see the sort of black country. And at that point, as Kevin mentioned, there was a decision for him to make. What do I do with this person who's giving me all these ideas and all these sort of visions and dreams? And what he ended up for me saying, I'd love you to be my mentor. And he said, yes. And what happened was a couple months of engagement where I said, hey, I'm going to do this. And he said, well, first of all, Kevin was right, get your grades first, which is always a great place to start in terms of education. And fortunately, throughout Kevin's school, I switched from doing A-levels to a mix of A-levels and also the BTEC program that he was running in terms of the level 3, which was equivalent to about the 3 different A-levels as well. And Stephen said, okay, because this is a different type of A-level class, I want you to come out with the highest mark. So I came out with the highest mark, and also I didn't drop a grade. I didn't drop a credit in that. So came out with 100%, and was ready and whisked off to university. At that point, they offered me not just an internship, but a job, which was really great. So throughout university, I fortunately had a job to go to, which was at IBM. So my lecturers were sort of looking at me thinking, okay, we've got information systems, we've got this guy who works at IBM. And most of the days when it was about careers day, I'd be there, switching from my sort of like university gear and sort of bringing on my suit and then also explaining the world and wonder of IBM. But realistically, the first bit I'd like to sort of present is all around preparation and planning. If we skip to the next slide. Again, I stayed at IBM for over 6 years now, sort of showing my age a little bit. I worked on these sort of projects. I think everyone's worked with Jaguar Land Rover. They're a great Midlands company. I worked with Reckitt before they were called Reckitt Benkeys. They had a recent brand name change, and you probably may not know about them for the majority in the room. They're kind of like your Unilever. So they own Gaviscon, they own Durex, which most people may have known them also. And I've also worked with Connecticut Defense Company and BP, just to name a few, at my time in IBM. And I've mainly been working with cognitive computing. So what is that? That's AI, machine learning, robotics, process automation, and implementing it in all these companies. And I thought, you know what? I've implemented it in a range of different sectors, and I've always said I'll only leave IBM if I feel like I could contribute better and bigger elsewhere. And that's sort of what led me to the phone call that Kevin said later on. And if we click onto the next slide, again, I love building solutions that not only from Kevin what I learned in terms of providing real opportunity, but is something that can impact others on a large scale positively. And if we go to the next slide, that just meant for me that I needed to start my own company. So I had the sort of will and the drive to be able to make that change, and I'd be accountable to myself, but also with some great advisors accountable to them to make sure that we're really making the right change. So yeah, this is a funny meme that we have for a lot of startup companies that we sort of see, and I'm sure that VCs will see as well. And for some of my friends, when I said, okay, I'm thinking about leaving IBM, they were like, what's a domain? I do want to research it. It's like, if I bought the domain, there'd be nothing there. You've got to build it first. And if we click on to the next one, If you don't know about I Know, we operate in the construction, building, and the renovation market. And it's great to see the investment that Wolverhampton Council's made in terms of I9 and bringing the Department for Housing into Wolverhampton. I think it's really, really positive in terms of bringing new skill sets, bringing new jobs, especially around construction. And one of the things that we were able to speak to Google around is the massive, massive disparity that we see in construction as well as tech today. So it doesn't really come as any surprise when we think about the imbalance of, the BAME community in construction. There's very few, black, Asian, and again, you've probably guessed from my name, I sort of straddle all those sectors, which is quite, in itself, quite a unique position. But also, when we think about, females and women in construction, it's extremely, extremely low. It's less than 1%, and a lot of work needs to be done there. And then also, what we looked at is in tech. We always speak about new tech roles for the future. Sometimes in technology, we always think it's great to hear the governments talk about it, it's great to hear the councils talk about it. What on earth are the roles that they think these new sort of digital roles are? And we really want to be at the tables in terms of saying these are the roles that we think, and really test it and really see how the education sort of plays into that. Because as Kevin knows really rightly, it starts with the education. You need to understand what these new jobs are, and then the education aspect is how long is it going to take to retrain these people to get these great jobs that is going to sort of put us in a leading position. And if we move to the next slide, that's the reason why I picked construction. It's when we think about small to medium businesses, it's almost depending on where you get your stats. Some people say it's 1 in 5 small businesses is construction, and others say almost 1 in 5. So take of that what you will. And if you go on to the next slide, we just kept hearing loads of things when we were speaking to independent tradespeople. They were saying, we're getting plagued with loads of different delays. There's loads of work going on. Especially if you've tried to reach out to a tradesperson recently, they'll probably say, we're booked. Again, I've heard that there's steel issues, there's, material issues at the moment, and they're saying, there's unnecessary escalations, which is leading to late payments because, again, they're the ones also that's getting impacted by these material shortage, etc. And really the relationship flow there is something that we've seen time and time again in different sectors. The first sector for me that I've seen it in is when we think about where Airbnb started. They wanted to really be that sort of booking solution where if I'm a host and let's say this Davis over here is the person that's looking to stay in my property, the payment, the management is taken elsewhere, and we can just focus on me giving you the best experience as you're staying in my property. If we go back one, and what we wanted to do for the construction market is effectively create that underlying infrastructure that was missed for small to medium businesses. So effectively, at IBM, we were pretty comfortable. We knew that we had tons and tons of lawyers, so it put us in a really great position if we needed to change some scope. And it meant that also we didn't have the whole sort of late payments as an issue. Maybe some suppliers may have done. But in regards to payments, we knew what it was from the full procurement process. We audited things to a very deep level. But if I'm an independent worker and I'm a tradesperson, I'm thinking about I'm delivering in terms of the construction job I'm doing, not what my maybe templated statement of work is, which probably isn't the best in terms of legality. So there's a lot of things where we needed to tap into there, and we've sort of presented it and pitched it to many different VCs that thought it really, really couldn't be done. And if we go on to the next slide, the one thing that I was very sort of shocked about and that Google was extremely shocked about is the amount of money it owed to tradespeople. It is shocking. In the UK alone, £30 billion. And again, this is because if I spend time, let's say, chasing Byron for my money, it means that I'm not now working on the next project. I don't have that sort of manpower. I don't have those sort of, maybe legal capabilities as our COO from Wolverhampton Council earlier. And I'm sort of left on my own, and I could go to small claims court, and I've really got no audit trail to sort of really go on my, to come in my sort of support there. So if we go on to the next slide, what we decided to do was create a marketplace field of all tradespeople, but change it a little bit. So we've got many great marketplaces where you can see tradespeople at the moment. I won't list any of them, but you'll be able to sort of go on there. They act more so like a directory, and you pay anywhere from a couple £100 into the thousands of pounds every single year for a membership. We didn't want to do that because there's an upfront cost, which is an immediate barrier to entry. There's also the other angle, and we won't skip, we'll keep on this for a little bit, where it was, yep, you can do the, paying for a lead. Not really the greatest scenario because it's a chance to get a job, but if I'm, let's say all of you here are a tradesperson, I'm the person posting a project, and I say, yeah, I've got this beautiful kitchen renovation that I'm looking at doing. You all send me a quote, and I say, actually, sorry, I'm going to run this project in 2 years' time, and you all spent £30, you'd be a little bit annoyed at me knowing that you're £30 down. So we looked at changing the whole model and saying this needs to be free for all of our service providers, and we need to help them in terms of legal support, we need to help them with finance support, and we need to help them in terms of insurance, because frankly, no one really knows what's in their insurance because not really everyone reads their terms and conditions as they should do. So if we click to the next slide, we also told our VCs we're not only going to do a marketplace, we're going to do payments and banking. And you can imagine what their faces are starting to look like here. And we said, also, not only are we protecting consumers from payments and banking, because at the moment the banking infrastructure doesn't really hold this. There's many escrow accounts at the moment, but they don't really let you hold it for larger than 30 days. And some of them are really hard to set up if you go with a traditional bank. So we want something really dynamic, something at the point when effectively a project gets started where you can follow that audit trail against it. And also, if I raise a dispute, I don't want to have to give the money back after 30 days. It needs to be held there until the actual solution gets resolved. And we said, not only are we doing the payments and banking, if we click onto the next slide, as mentioned earlier, we're going to do insurance. We're going to be a neo-insurer. And if we click onto the next slide here, instead of this being our great Steve Jobs moment, they sort of looked like Steve Jobs, but with this face. They weren't as pleased, knowing that we hadn't raised any money before. And they said, well, first of all, before you get any money from us, we want to see it. And I'm thinking, where on earth am I going to get any money from to create the new sort of neobank, like, Revolut or Monzo, and where are we going to create, a neo-insurer? We're going to get the finances to do that and speak to Lloyd's of London, and, just, hi guys, yeah, where are those contracts coming from? And also the marketplace actually is pretty easy to do. So that was probably our first starting ground, but we were able to sort of speak to our tradespeople and property developers, that some property developers that had got scammed out of loads and loads of money from going into joint ventures. There's a lot of people who have entered into that industry, especially during COVID, because they, once you watch one property developer video, you do get targeted massively into that industry. So what we wanted to do is create that sort of safeguard, and we were able to get it up. We were able to speak to those property developers, and we got investment. Our first form of investment was about £500,000 from our actual users, which was sort of great to see sort of their support from a grassroots level. And if we go on to the next slide, why is this sort of like a perfect time for us? And if we go on to the next one, it really is from the incumbent failure, but not just the failure from companies that have stuck with the same business model over and over and over again and haven't changed, but also regulations being on our side. In terms of ages ago, there weren't these sort of EMD or e-money sort of licenses that we've been able to sort of build our team in. At the moment, we've got ex-Revolut people in our team. We've got ex-AWS, which is just the sort of techie side of Amazon, and again, other ex-IBMers. I'm not the only one, I've got to say, but I've also got an amazing co-founder which has over 15 years in the buildings trade that has done, from small residential projects to massive skyscrapers. So having that knowledge in the team was, exceptional. And from doing it from a construction stage, there's no difference from how construction projects are done and managed to how we were managing them in the enterprise space, because all that they didn't have was a procurement flow that lasted from the end to end, that didn't stop. Because usually what happens is someone sort of pays for everything. The delivery team are like, what on earth have you guys paid for? And then right at the end, the billing team are like, okay, just give us a heads up when we need to pay out. And then it's like, hey, we'll pay you out maybe 30 days after it's delivered. And that's where you get a lot of frustration time and time again. And it happens in every industry. But we said for the construction industry, where there's a whole load of small, medium businesses, cash flow is everything. You know, it's a case of making sure you're running payroll on time for, you know, some of your employees. And if you do miss that payroll, what is the sort of repercussion that happens on the back of it? And if you go on to the next slide here. So yeah, position timing was, you know, really great for us. And there's this great thing, and I know that we've used football throughout the day, so I will just do one football remark, and I won't mention Liverpool because they're not, you know, it's Man United. So we'll talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone keeps saying that he sometimes makes tap-ins in terms of some of his recent goals, but the position and the timings being there in regards to if your position is close enough to the goal so you never miss, the timing probably means that you might be standing in an offside position for those that understand the offside rule. So both need to be coupled and both need to work if this is going to go ahead. And this goes again with the planning and preparing and the ready to share. You've got to spend time planning to put yourself in the best position when you're sharing about what you've worked on or what your sort of vision is. And if we go on to the next slide, again, and if we click on to the next one after that, again, from that, we got the opportunity to bring on some larger investors, some larger people that wanted to, you know, enter and change the construction world for the better, starting with the UK and also starting with the Black Country, which is extremely, extremely encouraging for me as someone that's, you know, was born and raised in Wolverhampton. So, you know, we've got the Google backing a construction tech startup. I know we also, by the way, something that's been ingrained in me from my IBM days is filing for patents. You know, they always say UK tech companies, it's great, but they don't own any IP. Well, we've filed 6 international system and method patents. So that's literally your software patents. You've got design patents. Byron will know you've got utility patents there as well. I can see him nodding. And then you've got system and method patents. So, you know, we were able to file that around what our whole aspect is in terms of how we create bank accounts for people's projects, because every time you run a project, we spin up a new bank account for it, so it's owned sort of separately. How we add dynamic insurance to that, which doesn't just stop you, doesn't just work in that project, but also after. So let's say I'm the worst tradesperson in the world. I probably am. And you run a project and you say, you know what, I'm not happy with, you know, the first stage worth of work. It was not done at all correctly. He's bought the wrong materials, and I am colourblind, so I probably would have bought a grey when it said a white. And you wanted to hold a dispute. Well, you don't need to start writing to the insurer, everything else. We're dealing with technology. So we already know who you are. We know where you live in terms of where the project's supposed to be run. We know the materials that were supposed to be bought and the labour in terms of who's working there. So all you need to do is say, I'm raising this dispute, and then maybe write like a couple sentences around why you believe that to be. And then it gets just dynamically assessed with all the discovery data that's already there, and you can get a really quick claim right at the end. So it needs to be more effortless. And this is a system that we're looking to scale around the world. And if we go on to the next slide, there's also an opportunity, and we tested this the other day in terms of jobs that we are creating in the Black Country itself. So we put up a few job postings around, you know, some new digital tech roles that we believe are going to be for the future. This is from, you know, I Know and also Google. And we sort of threw it on Indeed for a little bit just to test it. And also we will, are sifting through. We've already done and reviewed, I think, around 170 applications. We have over 300 applications in about 5 days. So we are working through it. And if you are someone that has sort of applied for one of the roles, we will see your file. But we want to make the Black Country not only the home for I Know, but also our centre of excellence for compliance and risk. So again, as we're operating in, you know, the neo-banking and the payments world, and also as we're operating in the neo-insurance world, for a really highly regulated market, which is construction, and that needs more attention and more support from the grassroots level, from the skills aspect, from the opening up opportunity, real opportunity from the access side, and removing those sort of payment barriers for people wanting to get started. We're looking at supporting that with a whole host of new roles, which follows off from finance to HR, and also within these sort of disciplines. So we tested that, and it seems to have been going fairly well so far. And if we go on to the next slide, just to wrap up the 3 sort of aspects that I had and that I touched on. Again, this was 2012-13, where I was sort of rambling on with some of my ideas and some of my concepts. But plan, prepare, and be ready to share. The next one that we spoke about was position and timing. And the one that I haven't spoken about, but I think every speaker today has spoken about is this last one, about your internal drive. I'm not sure if anyone's watched Herbie, but it's a very old film about a car which pretty much drives itself, and you can have someone as a your co-pilot there driving it, but it's all about your internal drive, especially being a small, medium business owner, especially a small business owner. As you quite rightly mentioned, your business needs to be self-sustaining, where it can, keep going on without you. But there are some times where your team looks completely at you, especially as a small organization, in terms of, what's the next plan? And it's very important, as even though we've got limited resources, to build a plan where there's that vision that everyone can, move forward with that common goal. And that is pretty much where I think I will end it today. And I'm not sure if this is just a little achievement slide that we've done, but that is it. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shang. Thank you. That was really, really refreshing, actually. I was trying to do the theme thing again, trying to get some, do some coding. I've been trying to ignore the fact that football has been in the mix, because it has, for me, there's no affiliation there with what we're talking about, but it's been persistent. And I think I'm just going to say now, after Mr. Shang has come, talked about football again. So you talked about Cristiano Ronaldo. We know he's now playing for Manchester United. And we know on Saturday they are playing against Leicester. And Leicester, someone from Leicester is in the room as well. I'm hoping who wins? King Power. Leicester, give them some trashing. Yeah. Yeah. Good thing some of their footballers, some of their players are still stuck in South America, doing their assignments, the qualifiers. So they will not be able to come back. I hear they're going to be chartering a flight for about 10 of them. I hope that doesn't happen, so that Leicester get a chance to thrash Manchester United. By the way, I am a qualified FA referee and an FA coach, so there you go. Yeah. Okay, last 2 weeks I was in Leicester watching the UEFA match. Leicester versus, what's it again? I can't remember. Yeah, but it was a good game. It was 2-2. It ended 2-2. Anyway, I'm going to introduce the next speaker, who is going to be really, really quick, because I'm sure a lot of us want to now start making it back to the pub or back home. The next speaker is Ionia. Ionia? Oh. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm told she's replacing this gentleman, and it's Ionia Accente? Yeah? Give her a round of applause, please.
To be very honest with you guys, I didn't prepare a football joke. And also Byron, just so you know, I have the graveyard slot, so you're okay. So obviously I'm not Mayank Shah. My name is Ioana Accente, and I'm not going to use any slides because I know it's late and everyone wants to go back home. But I wanted to kind of like tell you a little bit of like stories of resilience, 2-3 minutes tops. From tonight, obviously we've been through some very challenging times for the past 1 year. So first of all, I want you all to give you some applause for being here and for, surviving what we have done. Just having that space. I am so impressed with all the stories that everyone here in this room shared, and this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing at MSD UK. I'm the head of programs and partnerships, and we're basically MSD UK is the Minority Suppliers Development UK. Mayank Shah, who is the CEO and founder, has been championing supplier diversity for over 15 years. Again, he tells the story very well, and unfortunately he couldn't make it today. but he's moved from India to UK, and he had to start from zero. He's had an incredible journey of persistence and resilience. And similar to the reason why I joined MSGK literally during the pandemic is because we both share the same values and mission in terms of we're not going to use the slides. We're just going to, of basically being part of someone's growth journey. Personal, but also professional in terms of the businesses. I really, really value and I really love the business side, the entrepreneurship, and also working with youth, because I think that was another theme here. Youth are so resilient, and I've been working with them during the pandemic. We're working with youth from rural areas. That's kind of like in my spare time. I found out that if you're not commuting to work every day, you have more time. So I started working with incredible youth, but also in my day-to-day job, we help ethnic minority businesses to grow and succeed. So we do that through, basically for the main core activity of MSGK is bringing ethnic minority businesses from high startups, scale-ups, high-growth businesses with corporations. Over the past year, last year we were 6 in the team when I joined, and the team grew to 20 currently. And also from, I think, 38 corporations that we had, now we're going to reach 100 corporations. So it is, basically opportunities are out there, and we want to do more. And that's why we want to come to events like this. We want to connect with you. We want to hear the stories. And we want to make sure that your journey continues. And we're there to support you. We've got incredible different programs as well that are available to everyone. But also just come and speak to me, speak to Sam. I'm so honored to be here. And thank you so much for giving us this place. There are loads of opportunities from the corporates, which I'll share with Sam, and then he can share with the network as well. But also we've got, for younger, if you have, entrepreneurs at early stage, we've got the Innovation Challenge. If you're a startup scale-up MVP, we've got the MSGK Accelerator. And then for those high-growth businesses, we also do executive leadership programs and also an incredible program similar to Golden Sachs as well with Tuck University from America. So we've partnered with them to bring that expertise and to the businesses that we're working with. So thank you so much. And I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayola. Thank you. I think we've almost come to the end of the night. Yeah, and finally I've remembered the match I watched. It was Leicester and Napoli. Yeah, that shows you I'm getting tired if I'm forgetting the matches I've watched live. Anyway, I'm just looking in the room and I can still see the council executives with us. This is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The mean business guys, please give them a round of applause. Is your deputy leader and one of our top execs and are literally here with us. You know, they've delivered, in my opinion, whether they do anything extra from tonight or not, they've delivered. That's it. Right, this is working. Uncle Sam, thank you. I know you've used some black magic to hold them there, because this doesn't happen. This does not happen. You need to commercialize that black magic. We need to use it more often. Yeah. So we're going to have our panel now. The questions need to be really, really precise and straight to the point. Simple sentences, no complex sentences, and the answers have to be direct as well. Most of us want to now go home. Mrs. Shania Ferdinand? Yeah. Byron Dixon, OBE? Shang? And please also, if you have questions for any of our council executives, do ask them. They will be part of this, panel as well. Yeah, so let's rock and roll, yeah? I don't need. Oh, right. Okay. please do come up. I don't want to follow the protocols because we're running out of time. Just come to the stage. Come. So if you have a question, we'll come round to you, bring the microphone, and you can ask one.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay. Shania, please introduce yourself.
Hello. Oh, no, it is working, sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Shania Ferdinand. I work for NatWest. I'm from Birmingham, and I'm actually going into town tomorrow, so I'm going to be visiting the kiosk. But I was invited here by Sam tonight to just talk about some of the things we do to support small businesses, and it's been a really great evening, so thank you for having me.
I think we all know me.
Yeah, we all know Shang. And Shang, there was something you showed tonight that really, really scared me, and that was one of the reasons. You know, when I migrated in September 2008, in December, I experienced the first winter in England. I packed my bags. I was heading back to Nigeria where I came from. The only two things that stopped me, one is I did not want to be in the same vicinity with my sisters. That was one of them. The second one was cockroaches. And then you showed this tonight, and I just packed my bag again last week. That means I'm not going anywhere again. I just remembered the cockroaches in Nigeria. They are horrible, absolutely horrible.
The sad thing is with that slide is you'll probably remember it for a couple of weeks to come. Whenever you hear my name, you'll think of cockroaches. I will be the cockroach guy. So, sorry.
You killed me. Oh, my God. Anyway, any questions? Very quickly, because we're getting...
Yes, so you've heard their presentations.
Yeah, I thought I'd kick things off, if that's okay. Yes, Shania, I do apologise. Really briefly, just what do you perceive from your role in NatWest are the sort of the primary challenges that ethnic businesses are facing, certainly in this region? And then I've got just one question for Byron as well.
Funny you should mention that. So at the moment, we're actually working with the Centre for Research and Ethnic Minority Entrepreneurship on a piece of research, which is actually looking at ethnic minority businesses, ethnic minority entrepreneurship in the UK, the landscape, but also comparing it to things that are going on globally and really trying to come up with a framework for industry-wide, but also kind of at policy level with other big business support organisations around what it is we can do to create a better ecosystem and environment. And the main challenge is, I'll say as I'm the bank, and it's the one that always comes up as soon as people hear that I'm from the bank, is access to finance. Definitely something we're aware of, and we're working towards making that better by providing better education, better financial education, but also looking at our systems and processes and how we can help to support businesses in general. We're also working across the industry, so we work with the other banks collaboratively to think about what is it that we can do to help make that better, and so that's one of the main things. I'd say the other big aspect or big issue and challenge is knowing where to go for support. For some of our smaller businesses or earlier stage businesses, it's often a case of there's a lot of support out there. There are networks like the Wolverhampton Black Business Network, but people just don't know about them. So again, it's that thinking about how can we engage better with businesses to let them know about the type of support that we provide that other organisations provide, and working collaboratively to just make sure that people are receiving the right support at the right time. And then I'd say the final kind of big one, especially for some small businesses and in more regionally, thinking about the regions, is that having access to the right networks and being able to connect with people who aren't in your immediate system. We know from previous studies that ethnic minority business owners are more likely to go to family and friends when they're thinking about starting up businesses, and those family and friends, while they may have businesses, it may not be in the same industries they're looking to work in. And so it's how do you help to connect and facilitate those connections cross industry and making sure that people are getting access to the right people.
Yeah, and then just, just one question to Byron then. What would you say to yourself that young Byron lad now, if he walked into the room, that young lad in Leicester, what would be your words of advice, knowing what you do now?
I'll turn this mic on. Oh, is it on?
Yeah.
It's on now. What would I say to younger me? Do it quicker. Don't be such a little so-and-so. But one thing that people that know me for a long time have said, I've not changed. They said, you've always got that freedom look about you. And I think another thing I would say to my younger self is, also younger people in the room, is follow your dream. You know, I went through 10 years at Zeneca thinking that it didn't feel right. Although I loved the job, I didn't feel right somehow. I felt like I was like a child with somebody's hand on top of my head. And I went to Echo, which was a completely different environment. And I loved it. So I speak about Echo much more than I speak about Zeneca, although I was only there for 4 years. And then having my own business absolutely suits me because I do have that free spirit mind. So I would say follow your dream and be yourself. That's massive.
Right, thank you. Does anybody else have another question? And just before we move on, just to Shania, we did some work, Sam and I, back, about 10 years ago, Sam, with CREM, on fiscal policy and access to finance with the British Bankers Association. So we're more than happy to help you with that piece of research that you're doing.
I'm actually going to be inviting you both to the consultation we're doing in the next month, so look out for my email.
One of the things I've noticed being in different organisations, both in Ireland and this country, is we only meet when there's a conference. And that's when we only share ideas. And after the conference, everybody's gone. We don't seem to have that collaboration for people to come together during the year to plan things, such as the banks and all these other organizations that we have key people who spoke today are working for. We struggle because at the end of the day, we have the community, like WBBN and all the communities that are there to serve our people, our youth, left alone to make the planning, to sort of struggle and look for information. So what I would like to say, because I've seen this across Europe and here, there needs to be some sort of collaboration, a continuous sort of working together and planning together. It's not just the organizations that should be planning. We've got all these other companies here that will reach out to us and say, we're thinking about this, we'd like to do this. How do you come in to help? What's your role? How do you get the people together to come in? How do we go out there and encourage our youth to get involved? So I don't see just the organization as just on its own. It should be a collaborative thing, a collective thing that involves everybody. That's the only way we're going to succeed. Because I've been in so many different organizations, both here and in Europe, and as soon as all the conference is done, that's the end of it, until the next conference. So there should be some sort of collaboration between all of us. So we walk away from here today thinking, I've seen what WBBN is able to do. I've seen what they're capable of doing. What kind of support can I give them? What kind of help do they need? How do we go out to the community and spread the message?
Thank you.
I think that's great, and especially around the commit item as well. That's one of the things that we looked at for our tradespeople, knowing that they're so disparate. They almost feel in a way that, in some respect, that people look down on them, and that's what they've told us. And one of the things that we started to do is level in and understand what we are as a tech company. And one thing that you'll see with loads of different tech solutions is all about collaboration, all about working together. We now no longer work in a silo. And again, creating a community that they're able to share issues that they're having day to day with. So that's one of the reasons why we made it free, and we're always going to be free for tradespeople. Again, like you, it's free for you to use Google, as is today. But the one thing that we've also done is been able to give them actual access into legal support. They currently have access to legal support, that's there. They also have a mental health line 24/7. You can do that as well tonight. And also, if you do want to become a tradesperson, even if you want to be a painter and decorator, you do get £10 in cash, because we do have our FCA license, so we can give that out and we create a bank account at that time. So one of the best things is in terms of creating those communities, and I do agree with you in terms of the aspect of everything that we say today here, everything that each of the companies say and the council says, it needs to be very real. And one of the points I want to pick up on, I think it's great around the bank side, and one thing that the VCs have now looked into is out of all VC money, 0.5% goes to black-owned businesses. So, you know, take that in, and hopefully on a council level it's higher in terms of grants. I'm sure it probably is, and hopefully at a banking level as well it's much higher as well. And we're making some big commitments in terms of job roles, and as we're doing another round of funding, it'd be great to see Wolverhampton Council commit with us as well in terms of co-funding this round that we've got with Google.
Thank you very much, and we're going to take the final question, and I think it's from our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sandra.
Sorry, this lady goes first, and then it is the Deputy Mayor after that.
And then we close. Thank you.
Okay, let me make it quick. Thank you for today, and I'd like to continue from what this lady said. I was going to ask, is it possible for you next time to pick up maybe 2 or so people starting businesses or struggling in the businesses to sit right in front of there, and then these guys who have succeeded to ask them questions and see where they are? Because when you're talking like this, we're gaining things, but when we get home, some of the information we cannot apply it. But if experts are giving, or people have experienced the same thing, are giving people, they'll sit like the panel that is set there, but it will be people with startups and people who are in the middle of a business, and maybe they are not making it, or they don't know how or what is going on. So just requesting, is it possible to arrange SAT and include it in as part of your agenda?
Definitely, I'm sure Uncle Sam is open to any ideas. We have forms actually on the table saying, asking for feedback, so we definitely take all feedbacks on board. So thank you very much.
Right, before we move on, just to say to this lady here, I think, and to challenge Eunice as well, you all have a responsibility to do that collaborative work. You all have a responsibility from this meeting, if you go away and you want to do something in business, to get in touch with the people that are in this room. Their information, their website contact information, you can just Google them and get that information and get in contact with them. They're not a million miles away from you. So I challenge you, if you want to work collaboratively, you want to be in partnership, get in touch with WBBN, or get in touch with the people in this room that have inspired you tonight. Yeah? But don't sit back and say that when you get home you forget. You have to take, if you've listened to nothing else tonight, tenacity, resilience, and drive, and you have to drive your business.
Quick question, Byron. Fantastic. I'm not trying to pick on you, but I went to Aston, and I know the 10,000 Goldman Sachs. Actually, that was one of the reasons I was able to get here. I'm in Kiel Business School now. I was going to ask how you get your trusted sources of information. Like you said something happened in China, and then based on that, you knew it was going to come. So how do you decide? Because one thing I keep hearing, I'm doing research on businesses now, Bain businesses, is that there was a lot of information coming. So how do you sift through all that chatter and then decide this is what I'm going to do, and then make your decision? And finally, do you find time to educate yourself, seeing you're so busy? And that's for all of you there as well. How do you update your knowledge when you're so busy doing all your businesses? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make this really short because we all want to get home, and I've probably got the longest drive home. So how do I get the sources? Networks. How do I build the trust? Networks. What was the third point, sorry? Education. It's an old adage and it's really corny, but you've got to work on your business, not in your business. So I'm always open to a conversation, I'm always open to advice, I'm always open to learning, but that means you cannot be working on your business, changing the nuts and bolts of radiators and all that kind of carry on. You've got to stand back and say 2 things. Anthony made the point, you've got to look after yourself. I don't work 14-hour days, I do 9-hour days. And you've got to be able to have that helicopter view, otherwise you'll just be a busy fool.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Please, round of applause. Yeah. And that's another theme. That's another theme I didn't pick on. Family, you know, having time for yourself, not just working and working. You have to work smart as well. So having time for yourself and your family is very, very important. We're going to have the last question. Yeah. Okay.
I'll just be really quick with this, because I think one of the things I'd like to say, I'm Sandra Samuels. I actually run a small business and have done for 9 years in partnership with 2 other partners. I like to think it's a successful business, but we've just gone through COVID. But what I'd like to say is that, and it hasn't been said this evening, it's Black History Month. And what I've seen here today, because I'm really excited. I'm excited. I know it's not been said. It's up there, but it's not been said. We have such an enormous pool of talent in Wolverhampton. And I think the theme this year around Black History is Proud to Be. I'm sitting here and I'm bursting with pride, because one of the things we don't do enough is celebrate our successes, but celebrate our talent and skills that we have right here. What I'd like to see, and I'm looking at Sam, because I was part of the organization 10 years ago and sort of slipped back because politics took over. I'd love to see a directory with the majority of our skills and you know, for me, so we can actually share. We can share out there, because we all mentor, a lot of us, but then we also need to signpost people on where to go for the information they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. Oh dear. Okay, that brings us to the end of a fantastic, fantastic evening. I'm actually looking forward to the 2022 one. I wonder what's up your sleeves, Uncle Sam. I call him Uncle Sam. He's not biologically related to me, trust me. It's just that in our culture, if you call him by his name, he's actually entitled to, like, conking me on the head. So that's why I'll call him Uncle Sam. Thank you so much to our wonderful, wonderful panel, Ms. Shania Ferdinand. Give her a round of applause. Mr. Kino Shang, Mr. Brian Dixon, OBE. And another massive round of applause for the council executives over there. And another massive round of applause for Uncle Sam. And another massive round of applause for every single one of us that made it to the end. Even though we look miserable. Not quite. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be part of this. I know next year you might not bring me on, so I better soak it all up. Thank you so much. Thank you to my co-host. We go back together as well. Give her a round of applause. Guys, you need to actually stand up. Your time to shine is finished. That way. Okay. Give them a round of applause again. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. And you are free to go and pick up your cars or your Uber and go to wherever you choose to. Bye. And thank you so much.